Welcome back to the party, everybody. I am your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Everybody hit that like and subscribe. You know I would do it for you. And let's party. Big shout out to the replay gang. Thank you so much for coming back to watch this, even though you missed the live party. Guys, that is the best part. So make sure you're here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, and sometimes whenever I feel like it. So hit that subscribe, ring the bell, and you will never miss an Indian Jesus live party ever again. If you'd like to support the channel, head on over to theindianjesus.com for your very own official merch. We got hoodies, we got stuff for your kids, we got skateboards, we got all that good stuff only at theindianjesus.com. Guys, we do also have a Discord, a Discord community that is absolutely free to join. Guys, trust me, this is where you want to be. This is where you want to be. There's people of all different walks of life, all different diversity of thought in there having, conversations that matter. And that's what this is really all for. So go and, I did ping, the link is in the chat. Go join. It is absolutely free. However, if you are a member of this YouTube channel, you can scroll right below the video and hit that join button. There's a couple different tiers, but it starts only at just $2.99 a month. It's your members only live streams here on YouTube, all that other good stuff. But it also opens up the full Discord server, which includes our after party, channel, which as soon as we are done with this stream, then we're headed over there. We don't have to worry about any YouTube censors, and you are not stuck behind your keyboard. You're actually on screen with me and everybody else. It is a good time. Definitely come and join us. Shout out to King Nirvana, who specifically requested that we talk about some Dave Smith. And I love me some Dave Smith. The problem is that Dave is so good at what he does that I have trouble doing what I do, trying to respond and react and, talk about stuff that Dave does. He says all of the stuffs. But, Rogan's always a good place for discussions. So we're going to skip the beginning where they come in, how you been? I've been doing this in Austin and this and just kind of get into the meat. As always, guys, if you cannot hear the video, please do let me know.
Right? But I do just think that one of the things that I've found kind of amazing, and I've thought this with some of the people who have come on your show since the last time I was here, is the way that people can defend what Israel's doing in Gaza does kind of blow my mind.
It blows my mind too.
Because it reminds you that it's like, you're like, oh, okay, look, throughout all.
Thank you, sir. Let's see. And we're going right into Gaza and stuff, which is, again, not my wheelhouse, but we are focusing on the discussion and not necessarily trying to report the news.
Of human history, right? I'm not saying there's anything unique to Israel, like that they're the only ones to ever commit atrocities, or that they're not dealing with atrocities committed to them.
Super standard in
Sure,
terms of like world wars, in terms of like Dresden.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. If you compare it to the worst things that have ever happened in the history of the world, but I'm just saying throughout all of human history, there's been atrocities and there's been genocides and ethnic cleansing campaigns and slavery and all. But at every single point, there was someone there willing to rationalize it. Like someone there who would be like, no, listen, this is what we have to do because otherwise this. And it's amazing the mental gymnastics that people can come up with to justify something that is so clearly on its face just horrific.
And I meant to mention this is from May. This conversation is from May. So this is right before he went on PBD with Chris Cuomo and destroyed him. And just to give you an idea of, where the war was, we were still, only, 6 months from October. So here, we're coming up on a year already, but this was, 4 months ago.
Defy something that is so clearly on its face, just horrific.
But I think the difference is back then, your understanding of it was much more limited.
Yeah.
You weren't watching videos on it. They didn't exist. If you saw it on television or on the movie theater, it'd be a small clip that was played and it was played before the film, but everyone knew that the reason why we're here is because people went to war and won.
Is that how people used to find out about stuff before like terrestrial TV? Like they would go to films and they would just be like, here's the news since the last movie came out. Interesting.
Knew that the reason why we're here is because people went to war and won. Or you escaped a war-ravaged country and you came to America. Everyone knew it. Everyone had an understanding of that. So when we were at war, people were signing up to go to war. There was no need to draft them. By the time Vietnam rolled around, people were starting to get more information. And they go, hey, I think this is a bullshit war, which is like the first time ever in this short history of our country where we're like, hey, this one sucks.
Yep. Shout out to Zippy DSM Lee. Welcome to the party. The government is a result of people being dumb. If people were smart, government should do no harm. Interesting. So Zippy is referring to the running poll right now. And guys, replay gang, I definitely want to hear from you on this one. And it just says government is, and there's 4 options: good, bad, neither, or both. Is government good, bad, neither, or both? So yeah, I mean, obviously to know what's going on, but I'm saying in terms of seeing the actual video footage of whatever, but before they had TV, film still existed. They still had war films, but it's not like you could just go to YouTube, like you know what I mean? So and TVs weren't a thing. So it must have been when people going to see the moving pictures. And then before, instead of seeing, the next Marvel movie, it's really, by the way, all that stuff you've been hearing on the radio, here, that's what it looks like. I don't know. But that's what it sounds like. And it makes sense. Like, how else would you see that stuff? And again, we have stuff like Time and Life magazine, but the moving pictures. As we said, for old war films, lots of news was censored. So lots of new info was news shorts after films. Gotcha. Yeah, that's exactly what Interesting.
Ever in this short history of our country where we're like, hey, this one sucks.
It was kind of no defending it.
It was, and then when you find
not just, hey, this one sucks, just like, wait a minute, these all kind of suck.
Find out they were right at the end of it all. When you find out many years later that the Gulf of Tonkin was a false flag, you're like, what?
Which they didn't even need in order to be right. But then you find out, you're like, oh, the whole thing was
the whole thing. And then you go, what did you guys do with all that heroin money?
Yeah.
Where did all that money go? Because if I was the government and I was willing, just imagine if Eisenhower's correct, which is insane. How could he be? And that there was a real influence of.
You like my old-timey transatlantic accent, do ya? Today, in the Vietnam War, they were trying to... I don't know. It's got to be organic. When we point it out, then we don't get it anymore. No, but that's what it's... Yeah, once you learn about the specifically... it was a type of thing that they used for broadcasting the transatlantic accent is because they had a lot of different dialects of like now they've formed into just accents, but they were different dialects of English. And so like the Cajuns, y'all, I mean, I don't want to spoil anything, but I was gonna shout out to Channing Tatum. Well, just if you know,
because if I was the government and I was willing, just imagine
if
Eisenhower's correct, which is insane. How could he be? And that there was a real influence of military-industrial complex. If I was the military-industrial complex and I was willing to fucking start a war with North Vietnam for no fucking reason, so 100%, I'm gonna kill X amount of people and a bunch of Americans. And then you're going to actually make these Americans, you're going to draft them and force them to go because they don't want to go. You don't think it's all heroin?
Like that?
Wait, when you put it like that, they're willing to do all of this. And you don't think that they're willing to sell a little H, a little dope, a little horsey horse.
And then you're going to actually make these Americans, you're going to draft them and force them to go because they don't want to go. You don't think it's all heroin?
Like that would be your line?
Bro, that should have been in the special.
Narcotic?
Well, hold on. How much are these guys making?
Yeah.
How much are these fucking dudes making? How much?
A lot.
How many billions? This is what percentage of the world's heroin supply? And then when you...
Before we continue, guys, I really do want to give a shout out to anybody who is in the, dealing with Hurricane Helene. I did not understand how bad it was. I was going through TikTok this morning. Actually, let's even take a moment and just in case you have not seen it. I mean, do I have it here? it's just amazing. It's just amazing how insane. No, you need to see that before picture. Come on. This is what's happening in North Carolina. Chimney Rock is a good Asheville.
My car's gone. Everything's gone. It's all gone.
I was bad. That's all I know. And then, of course, we have our boy, who, yes, still is the president of the United States. And what does he have to say?
Yes, it's tragic.
He's asking about the victims of the hurricane.
Matter of fact, we're trying to get the exact number. My FEMA advisor is on the ground in Florida right now.
Okay, a team on the ground in Florida. Good. Sure. Okay, not Florida didn't get hit too bad, but okay. How about North Carolina? But all right.
There's a distinction between the numbers that FEMA's used and the ones that are used by
different numbers
by the locals. So it really is amazing. You saw the photographs. It's stunning.
It's unbelievable. It really is. Such a wide area.
And we've given them all everything that we have. We're on the ground ahead of time. So we're working hard.
So hey, we're working hard. That's what we're doing. This, that. We're working hard.
What resources the federal government could be giving them?
No,
Is there any additional resources the government could be giving them?
Are there any more resources the federal government could be giving them?
No, we've given them. We have pre-planned a significant amount of it, even though they didn't ask for it yet.
No, we pre-planned it. So first of all, what exactly are you claiming to have planned here? The fact that they would need this money? How did you know that they... I don't know. But shout out to anybody dealing with some of the stuff I saw with, like, I saw somebody's kitchen and sand all the way through their house at the sink level. Insane. So, to anybody, especially if you don't know where your family members are, wishing all the best. And obviously, this is why for the last 4 years, when people were like, let's not send our money all across the world, like, well, nothing. Anyway, shout out to them. All right, let's have a party. Let's get back into it.
How many billions? This is what percentage of the world's heroin supply? And then when you see the same trick played out in Afghanistan, when you my favorite was Geraldo Rivera interviewing the troops, rationalizing why they had to guard the poppy fields. Yeah. We have to guard the heroin.
Yeah, really good.
Wait, I did not see that. What? Geraldo Rivera guarding poppy fields. Poppy field. Oh, this is on now. Damn. All right. So I guess I know what we're doing Wednesday. We're gonna check this out on Wednesday. What's that? Let's see what we got. Let's see what we got.
Hold on a second. There you go. There you go. Hold on, fire.
I don't think this is Geraldo Rivera. One more. Well, let's try one more. It said Geraldo Rivera poppy fields. That's not him. Sky News. No. All right. No. We tried. Everyone who isn't here is a fool. I agree. And I did try something. I was like, all right, let me go live 5 minutes early without any things and see what's up. So now I know who the real ones are. Zippy says, to be fair to Biden, they probably have a set amount to be used on the fly. Anything more has to be voted on, but he handled that badly. Democrats, the most compassionate party comrade. And yeah, so even if the situation was, even if the situation was that he was literally walking out of a meeting where they were like, hey, let's make sure that we're giving them more money than we had previously allocated. And they're like, okay, now we have this set amount of money. And then he goes outside and they ask him, are you going to, Biden, are you going to give them more additional funds? And even if he was saying, no, that's what we were just doing. We, without them even asking, we went in, we had a task force or whatever. We sat down and made sure that they're going to have enough money. Even if that's the case, that at this point, no, we're not going to just throw them more money. That is not the answer to just say the answer is just not no. Like, well, we're doing everything we can, and as it comes up, then we'll see, and da. But just now, come on, man. I mean, I guess there's nothing. You don't need good optics anymore.
Why they had to guard the
poppy fields.
Yeah.
We have to guard the heroin.
Yeah,
for the good folks.
Well, I couldn't. This heroin falls into the wrong hands. It could be lethal.
There's no way America would sell
those bombs.
Yeah. There's no way the output of heroin out of Afghanistan. I want to say it was a 96% increase.
Total 80% global.
80% global.
See, you're exaggerating, Joe. It's only
no. It was responsible for 80%.
Call them out on the fake news. Let's go.
80%.
Ooh, yeah.
They were responsible for most of the global supply of heroin, and the production went up after we invaded. So opium poppy, which grows extensively in Afghanistan and southern fields, contains main opium ingredient used to manufacture heroin. Afghanistan was previously the world's top opium producer.
Yeah, if you got it, throw it in the chat.
Responsible for over 80% of the global supply and a major source of heroin in Europe and Asia. So how much did it go? Oh, plunges by 95%. When was this? Under the Taliban. Now, that's now. Yeah. See, the Taliban doesn't want everybody on heroin. They want people to get back to work and make Afghanistan great again.
The Taliban just ran on a Trump message.
They fucking kicked out
Based Taliban. No, I mean, obviously they have reasons of ideology that they don't want their people on it. Here, we don't have those principles. And clinging to Christianity ain't working.
Out the drug dealers. That's what happened.
Yeah.
They kicked out the drug dealers. Dude, there was a giant part of the supply of heroin to the world. The idea that we are not interested in that at all. We just want to push freedom.
Yeah, and I think even the people I think who are lying about this shit rationalize it in their own head.
Bro, where'd that money go?
Yeah, well, that's
where'd all that heroin money?
Well, I know I was listening to the Mike Baker podcast you had on where you were talking about the money in Ukraine and where.
Shout out to Mike Baker. He's one of I think he's ex-CIA that he's been on Rogan a bunch of times.
It went, and he was like, no, we don't really know where that. I thought one of the funniest things about that
I'll tell
was
you where
that
some of it goes.
Well, that's for sure. I think that's for sure.
The Taliban, it's not our.
Well, we know they found right after this they found some coke in the White House. So what goes up must come down. You know what I mean?
Tax dollars have 100% paid for some cocaine.
Oh, certainly.
The Taliban's successful opium ban is bad for Afghans and the world. The ban is not a counter-narcotics victory and will have negative economic and humanitarian consequences, potentially leading to a refugee crisis.
Oh, Jesus. So, Zippy said, I'd argue the Taliban are bad at business like most commies. Well, they are. I don't know a lot about their finances, but they certainly have the top-downness working on. King said, I remember my dad defending the guarding poppy fields, thinking they were helping Iraq from theft. Oh, pops. Oh, pops. Oh, poppy pops. Not quite.
negative economic and humanitarian consequences, potentially leading to a refugee crisis. Unlike us leaving in the middle of nowhere, allowing the Taliban to kill all the people we worked with.
But you see, you get my point about how humans can rationalize anything. Like they could just come up with
propaganda. That's
well,
propaganda,
yes, of course.
Or a man in the sky.
That's
but
propaganda.
Yes, that's true. That's also true. But even people who are like, I mean, look, I thought
the only way you could say that whether God made sense is if you're advocating that heroin should be legal.
Yes. But
If you're advocating that heroin should be legal, and this is your full perspective, okay, now I'll accept it. But if you really think that heroin is a scourge, and if you really do appreciate that 100,000 people died last year of opioid overdoses, 100,000 is a real fucking crisis.
Yeah.
If there was a disease killing 100,000 people, we would freak the fuck out.
Well, yeah, and so that's exactly what King is talking about. That this is the rationalization given, and I think so recently we were in a political landscape where, like, well, the government arrests people who do drugs. What do you mean the government wants the drugs? And so, like, that's why I didn't necessarily understand what Joe was saying, is that you would want to legalize it. But yeah, no, I think people, maybe he was talking about the politicians, but voters and citizens certainly would just think that, like, yeah, the government says we were doing it for reasons, and those reasons must be reasons because the government said it. King said he didn't believe me when I said it's used in our opiates. He thought pain pills were made from artificial shit. Oh, I wish, brother. I wish, because then they wouldn't have been that good, and I would have never gotten hooked. Shout out to Dietrich. Welcome to the party. Like, with that much heroin, and America is just interested in pushing freedom. America. My needle's name is Freedom.
Bingo.
Got him. Yep. It's sad. I mean, I definitely am, I'm a party guy. I don't really party as much anymore, but I got my drink. I like to get a little, what do we say? I don't even remember the word. Schwasty. I like to get a little schwasty every now and again, and I mean, you put something in front of me, I may or may not do it. But the fact that so many people are on government-sponsored drug addictions, maybe not the drugs specifically, in some cases, maybe the drugs specifically, if not directly, then you're getting money from the government that you go and spend on drugs. Wild. Like, dude, I've been there. It's so sad. Like, why I don't even understand why you would want your populace to be like that. It's not like these people are going in and getting legitimate prescriptions and insurance and all that. I mean, some people are, but most of it is just heroin and fentanyl. So the only reason why lots of people died of opioids or hard drugs is because we banned drugs and created a system that uses the black market to cull populations. Yeah, and I mean, I'm totally okay with the idea that these drugs shouldn't be super easy to get. But the fact that they already were, stopping that is not an option. Oh man, this is, I don't mean to keep bringing up religion, but this is my same kind of position on religion, that I think that we would be light years ahead. We would be light years ahead if we never had religion. But now that we have religion, one of the worst things that could happen to society is we just zap people's religious principles out of existence. That is not what I want, even though I think religion is terrible. And then it takes more than 3 steps to take. It's not a party drug. It's a process. So so how are we counting this? Because if I got my pill, acquiring it doesn't count. So I have my pill. I crush it up. That's step 1. And then I cut it into lines. Step 2. And then insufflation. Does that count? I don't know. It definitely is a process, but I'll let you guys decide on that one.
If there was a disease killing 100,000 people, we would freak the fuck out.
Well, look, I mean, I do think there's a strong argument for legalization, but there's also a difference between that and the government kind of like sponsoring
this
the
has
trade of it.
90% of heroin globally and more than 95% of the European supply. More land is used for opium in Afghanistan than is used.
Yeah, right. Okay, word. Because that falls. That's the same. You know, if you're gonna do coke, coke is obviously a party drug, and you gotta do the same thing. You gotta cut it up. You gotta chop it up, lines, and snip. So we good. We good. Yeah, I've never injected anything. Never injected, and I'm not talking like Bill Clinton. I never inhaled. That was him, right? I never inhaled. I legitimately have never put a needle into my body that wasn't from a doctor or a tattoo artist.
5% of the European supply. More land is used for opium in Afghanistan than is used for coca cultivation in Latin America.
Jesus.
Bro, you don't think that has something to do with it? Am I silly?
No, nobody's arguing with you, bro. Nobody's arguing with you.
No, I think it's insane to ignore that. I mean, like,
where's
come on.
that money?
Yeah.
Where's that money?
So I was going to say, dude, Rand Paul, I thought this was so funny. It was during one of the rounds of aid to Ukraine, and Rand Paul stood up and said, look, we don't know where any of this money is going. If we're going to send them this money, can we at least have an inspector general so that we itemize like where all the money is going? And
that would be amazing. That would be amazing.
It failed. The vote failed. Like even in the Senate,
communist talk.
Yeah, like even in the Senate, they were like, what?
The one spot where it's like, okay, yeah, we could use some government here. We could use some regulation here. Of course not. So we said, no, have to be super easy to get, or else the system will do it like they do now. But also, it should be easy to go to prison or a mental hospital if you're irresponsible. Trade of drugs should be as easy as booze. I like that. I like that actually, where you set it's super easy to get, and there's parameters to a certain extent, and as long as you follow those rules, you're good. But there's harsher penalties for going outside them. The difference or the issue I see with that is when the actual mechanism of addiction comes into play, then you have people who are, going along with the system and doing it the right way, but then their tolerance goes, and then they've reached the limit, and then what do? So we have. I mean, it definitely would be a good step. I would be in favor of moving in this direction, but this is definitely not a solution. Shout out to Am. Welcome to the party. You are not dumb. You can even though the Discord server is absolutely free to join. If you boost the server, then it gets a bunch of stuff. So right now we are currently at level 1. We have a bunch of emoji sounds, 24 slots in the soundboard, and better audio quality. But you'll notice that we haven't been able to share some of the videos because they've been too big, like actual video files. And the more that you boost the server, then the more stuffs that we can do. Just another way to support the community. Thank you for asking. And yes, again, join the Discord server, guys. It is amazing. It is amazing. I promise you will have a good time. All right, where were we? Where am I? Boom, 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 boom. All right, and welcome to the party. So Zippy is saying, even trade of alcohol should be simplified. You can't just make and sell shine like Kool-Aid, which is dumb. However, nukes from orbit if minors are involved. Hard label laws will ensure drugs are done fairly, even force them to say what's in over-the-counter and pharma drugs. You're kind of missing me on what needs to be changed about what needs to be simplified about alcohol sales. I don't get it. Explain to me. But shout out to our boy Indie Boom. Welcome to the party. Good to see you. Good to see you. I'm going to assume that's Italian, and I don't speak Italian. So hopefully it is not perverse. But again, guys, we do have our running poll. Government is good, bad, neither, or both. Hit that poll and let me know.
The vote, like even in the Senate,
communist talk.
Yeah, like even in the Senate, they were like, "What? What are you talking about?
Communist talk.
We're gonna know where our money's going? Nah, that's lame.
Yeah, we don't
just send it over there.
Just send them that shit. Send them everything they need and more.
Put a 1 in the chat if you would be more willing to pay taxes if you got a receipt.
And then, do you have one of their flags? You should wave it around.
Yeah, and we'll provide
wave it
the
around
flags.
in Congress.
We'll provide the flags. Don't worry.
Flags. They're all uniform, same size. It's not like people bought them from different vendors. No, they all got it from the same. Well, they got a box of them. Hey, make sure you guys grab your flags. It's fucking bonkers.
It's also just so the thing that's so wild to me is that after, and I know I've talked about this, I'm sure, on previous episodes, but just after 20 years of the terror wars and what a disaster those were, and to the point that everyone agreed, John McCain wrote in his memoir that the war in Iraq was a mistake. That's how universally agreed upon it is.
Which is
that the war, even John McCain would acknowledge we got that one wrong. So, and it's not like anyone else is defending any of the other terror wars at this point. But then as soon as we
and that's not the question I asked you. I said more. That doesn't mean that you have to like paying taxes, but if you don't like paying taxes at this rate right now, if you got a receipt, would you like it more or less or exactly the same? Because I would much rather have that receipt. If they're going to take the money anyway, it would be less worse if I knew where that money was going, and it would be way less worse if I could actually opt out of the things that I didn't feel like I needed to pay for. I'd be more willing. I think you would get more money out of people in general if it was an opt-in thing. And like obviously, there had to be a certain percentage, but you allocate where it's going to go. And that's not a complicated system. I don't know how to program that, but I know for a fact that that's not difficult for them to do if they wanted to, but they don't. If he said, like with guns, you need permits and stuff to sell alcohol from your home. You can't just make wine and shine and sell it like a normal thing. You have to jump through a bunch of hoops. So unless we're talking like macro scale in food in general, I'm okay with if we have things like the FDA making sure that your meat is up to this quality or that quality, that alcohol would be the same. Why would it be different? Or are you saying that let's get rid of the FDA? Yeah. Like if I pay $1,000 in taxes, I see that $20 has gone to this, and $25.70's gone to that, and $3 has gone here, and so on and so forth. Then yeah, that would be a less bad thing than we have right now. Okay, they look into the drinks. Okay, why do you say that? So we got two opposing opinions. Both of you give your reasoning.
And it's not like anyone else is defending any of the other terror wars at this point. But then as soon as we kind of get out of them, we're not even fully out, but we're mostly out. We just get into these proxy wars in Ukraine and now in Israel that are clearly wars of choice for America. Like, we don't have to be involved in these. We're just still deciding to continue this war machine going.
These last two are really important. When they get done, we're done.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I agree with you, Indie Film. That's why I brought that up, because like if that's the conversation, then that's a different conversation that I'm willing to have that conversation. But that wasn't what was brought up. So if we're specifically talking about alcohol, like okay, we have with guns we have an amendment for that. So that's exactly why it should be simple. We shouldn't have any regulations. Why is alcohol different than any other thing that we would ingest? That's what I'm not understanding.
These last two are really important. When they get done, we're done.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. This is it. Right. It's anyway, man. I will say that I think a lot of the
so just the standard reason that the FDA would be involved in having standards. And again, we do have the issue that everything is bureaucracy and red tape. But I am happy that So let's put it this way. I am happy that when I go to a grocery store, that I don't have to worry about sourcing other people who have bought from this particular farm, because in a free market, anybody could sell their meat, and it's up to the consumer to understand the farmer that has the bad meat so that you don't buy the bad meat. If I know we don't have an FDA, then I have no problem doing that for myself, because I trust myself more than I trust the government. But if we have the government and we have the FDA and the meat is in the supermarket, then I'm assuming by virtue of the fact that it has that stamp on it, then it's got, that it's a certain level of legit. You know what I mean? And so the government has so many resources and creates advanced tech already. The government even has a procurement site, but choose not to itemize. Crooks. Yep, crooks. Yeah, I mean, it would be so easy. It would be so easy. But why would they? Shout out to Carl Joe Hansen. Welcome to the party. So Dave Smith is one of those people who knows about TDS, can spot and criticize it in other people, and is unaware he is a raging case of it himself. TDS is a hell of a thing. Provide evidence. Because I think there's a very big difference between not liking Trump for specific reasons and having TDS. Those are very, very, very different things. And, Dave has very different ideas about geopolitics and even taxes in the economy and stuff than the average Republican. So if he is, and he's not a Republican, so if he has reasons, even if you don't agree with those reasons, then he just doesn't like. Well, guess who else said that Kamala won the debate? Kamala won the debate. Kamala did better than if Kamala was here and Trump was here. Kamala ended up here and Trump ended up here. That's winning. That's winning. Just because she didn't, completely turn the race around doesn't mean she didn't win that battle. Okay, whatever you say, bro. Anyway, said, "Hey King, I hear a bunch of people have gotten sick from a certain FDA-approved jab. I buy meat and vegetables every Wednesday at a local farmer's market. No government needed." And that's why that's exactly, I would prefer that it would be this way. But given that it's not, and I don't have the money to go to a local farmer's market, then I just have to trust whatever is in Walmart. And so given that, then I don't understand why would we look differently at other things. FT's fine because I do everything. That should be optional. Agreed.
Anyway, man, I will say that I think a lot of the defense of the war in Gaza, which I kind of feel we are even calling a war because it's not, doesn't exactly feel like that's what the term should be.
Well, it's like the Bill Hicks joke. It's only a war when two armies are fighting.
Well,
that's a good line. Am said Kamala presented her lies much better than Trump.
Bingo.
I don't think you can win by lying, but she did much better than expected. But Tim Walz versus Vance, that will be a watch. Yeah, it is. If lying your ass off in a way that people believe is winning, that is winning. That's what the debates are for. They're not to, like, you don't like what she did, as the rest of us hated it, and we're fucking. But we're already we're not the target audience for those debates. The target audience for those debates are Joe Rogan is the most political that people get. And I'm being generous to the people. These are for super low information voters who, for whether they're busy, whether they're stupid, or whether they're just apathetic, they don't know anything. And exactly, Zippy, optics is winning. So smoke and mirrors is winning.
Bingo.
She won the debate.
Doesn't exactly feel like that's what the term
Well,
should
it's like
be.
the Bill Hicks joke. It's only a war when two armies are fighting.
Well, right.
Remember that joke he
Yeah,
had
vaguely.
about Iraq? They said, "Oh, Bill, Iraq is the fourth largest army." He goes, "Yeah, but after number 3, there's a big drop off."
Right.
He goes, "The Salvation Army's number 5."
Was it yesterday? I thought it was. No way. Yeah, no, when is it? October 1st. Okay, I thought so. So what do you mean? What you talk about, Willis? Someone asked, what about taking women's rights away and political violence? What about it? No president can give or take rights away when it comes to abortion, and political violence typically comes from the left. So I would throw that right in her face. Carl said the idea that Trump loses if he does not destroy Kamala is a double standard. Yes, Carl, correct. But unfortunately, double standards exist. She lost, and Trump probably chose not to because of the optics. Okay, then he chose to lose. Like, I don't. You've already we're clearly using two different versions of win, and I'm being very clear that my definition of winning is who has the better optics, who gained more benefit from that, and I have concepts of a plan. Not good. All of the bad stuff was already stuff that was bad about her already that we already didn't like. So the people who didn't know anything about her didn't get much of her to despise.
He goes to Salvation Army's number 5.
Yeah, it's a great bit.
It's a great bit.
Well, I mean, but
he had
look,
some great bits about the war.
But in the case of Gaza, it's not even like there's not even a government. I mean, they're a stateless people who have been captive by the Israelis since 1967.
And then they're captive politically in their own country by Hamas.
Right.
And then Hamas does do what this accusation is, that they have their bases under schools and hospitals.
Let's give a quick dilly to that. There you go. Doing the work, I'm doing the work.
What this accusation is, that they have their bases under schools and hospitals. They actually do that.
Yeah, I think it's certainly exaggerated at times by the Israelis, but there is no question that they are. Look, they're in this. Gaza is dude. It's
did they know
5 miles wide.
I know it's crazy.
Gaza, like so you could jog from one side to the other without taking a break.
It's literally,
I would take a break.
Way close.
He's saying I would take a break. I would take a break, guys. This is let's try something new. I'm gonna stop the entire show for 15 seconds and just beg you, please, to share this video wherever you can. Just share it. It doesn't matter if nobody is going to click on it. The fact that YouTube sees that you are going to take that link and throw it somewhere else or hit that share button does so very, very much. There's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's it. Thank you so much if you shared the video. Oh, and we got a Rumble brand from our boy Zippy DSM Lee. And of course, every donation comes with a treat for my co-host Morty. Thank you so very, very much. And of course, that makes you the new sponsor of the stream. Shout out to Zippy. Thank you. He just says dog indeed. Thank you.
Jog from one side to the other without taking a break.
It's literally,
I would take a break.
Way closer, way smaller than here to my club.
Yeah. Check these out. Wait, where are we at? We got White News for Harris, and then I've been seeing this one go around. I mean, this is just. It's just too perfect. I mean, you can't ask for more than that. You can't ask for more than
now, imagine that. Imagine like an extra 10 miles.
Yeah.
That small tract of land in the last 5 miles is what's getting the fuck blown out of it.
It is. It's I think 25 by 5. So it's like a marathon by a jog.
Whoa. I knew it. I mean, I didn't know the exact numbers. I knew it was literally a Gaza strip, but 25 by 5? That's wild.
You know what I mean? Like that's Gaza.
It's so little.
So I'm just saying part of this, and this isn't, I'm not like making any excuses. I mean, there's no question there have been incidents of Hamas like embedding themselves in civilian locations, but also it's not as if they have a military or a government. It's not as if there's going to be two armies that meet themselves on the battlefield here. Hamas is essentially a gang in an Israeli prison that like rose up as the toughest gang there. And yeah, in such a densely populated area, that's the way, as they call it, asymmetric warfare is going to work.
Mm-hmm.
I do look, man, I took issue with like a few things that some of the guests you've had on recently have said. Like, I think all of this, a lot of times it comes down to framing, like how you want to look at an issue. And particularly the people who are way behind Israel on this, I feel like always rely on this very strange framing. So they don't.
Oh, what happened? Can you guys hear me? What's going on? I just got chat disconnected. Are we good? Somebody say something. Check. Somebody say something. Somebody say something. It looks like I'm still live. Successfully connected. Okay, I do not know what the hell just happened. That was weird. I've never seen that before. Okay, thank you. So there was a cringe video of this guy dancing to Sting wearing a white Guys for Harris t-shirt. A way to cause a drought amongst a woman. Yeah. It's just that I think that's the last vestige of a true male feminist who is just there for, I think I'm supposed to, or white dudes for Harris. Every single sitcom dad is in white dudes for Harris. I like that.
Israel.
Oh, yeah. So I wanted to ask you guys before the chat screwed with me. Is anybody here super pro Israel or super pro Palestine? Or are you guys more in the middle? Do you like where are you guys at on that? Because I know, some people, we have some opinions that are a little bit strong. But for those of you who are here, where just give me a short little thing on where you are personally on the conflict.
Like how you want to look at an issue, and particularly the people who are way behind Israel on this, I feel like always rely on this very strange framing, so they don't have to confront exactly what's going on, and they can kind of look at it in more of an abstract, removed way. Like when you had I'm sorry if I'm saying his name wrong, but Gad, how do you say his last name?
Gad Saad? I've always called him Gad Sad, but either way. So I'm with AMP. I don't care about either, except for the, not that I don't care, but politically, I don't care about the conflict further than my tax dollars and your tax dollars are going to fight it.
Saad. I've read his stuff before, but I always butcher names. But so one of the things he said, which I know I've heard this in every debate I've done on the topic so far, but he said same thing Dennis Prager said to me when we debated, he was like, well, look, if Israel laid down all their arms, there'd be a genocide. If Hamas laid down all their arms, there'd be peace. And forget the fact that I will say I don't agree with the second part of that. I don't think that's clear at all. I think
people were saying that the first stream that I did after October 7th, where I brought on those two people to kind of educate me on what they thought of the conflict. They said the exact same thing. If Hamas was going to lay down their weapons, there would be peace. And if Israel did it, there would be a genocide. And that's bullshit.
I think if Hamas laid down all their arms, which essentially the Palestinians are as close to have laid down all their arms as could be.
Looking at it too binary. Like,
well,
yeah,
yes.
Yes, because we're forgetting about the third biggest factor in this, which is usually the desire to either win or end a war. So you have two sides that are fighting to a common goal of winning, whether it's land or whatever. But that's not the goal here. The goal here for both sides is complete elimination from the earth. And I just don't have a reason to be morally involved in that. And, we talked about on the Philosophy Friday, we were talking about if there's a girl drowning in a pond right in front of you, then whether there's people around or not, then you're going to go dive in and save her. It doesn't really matter anything else. But there's children dying in Gaza, in Palestine, bombs everywhere. But me and Ab are easily able to say, yeah, I don't care. Why is that? It's because we are able to, number one, see that there isn't much that I can do. Oh, hungry dance. He is hungry. There's not anything that we can do. Whereas the difference between a kid drowning in a pond right in front of us, we can jump in and save her. But also, too, in the instance with the girl, she would like to be saved. She would like to not be in the midst of drowning. And she wouldn't say, well, if I can't drown this lake, then I want to stay in here. That's the difference.
If you're supporting the Israelis, even if you're from that position, you have to acknowledge the attacks on AIDS workers. Like, it seems to be there's a bunch of targeted attacks on people bringing in food. Well, like Jose Andres's people.
Yeah.
And then there's been more of those. Like there's all these, I think, how many documented attacks are there on,
if not cuckery, at least advanced simpery,
aid supply? Because it's a big number.
There's been several, I know for sure.
I think it's a big number.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's
creepy.
Well, I remember when you had anyway, just the point I was making about Gad's thing is that it's also this, like, I just hate when people retreat to almost these hypotheticals. It reminds me of Sam Harris's argument about why you were really wrong with the at least 8 times.
8 times.
Yeah, that's
so
a
8
lot.
times Israeli forces have attacked humanitarian aid convoys.
Yeah. So that's what they're talking about here. 8 times Israel forces have attacked humanitarian aid convoys and buildings in the Gaza Strip. At least 8 times since October, despite being given coordinates to ensure their protection. Human Rights Watch has said in a new report. Hey, shout out to Garrett Grant in the building. Welcome to the party. Gifted a membership to Rowdy Ruff. Shout out to Rowdy Ruff. If you are here, make sure you join the Discord and get your roles as a member. Thank you. And of course, a treat for Morty and a co-sponsor of the stream. Thank you so very, very much, sir.
And buildings in the Gaza Strip at least 8 times since October, despite being given coordinates to ensure their protection, Human Rights Watch has said in a new report. So they're targeting these people. So you've got some members of the Israeli military that don't give a fuck, and they want to stop these people from getting food.
And well, look, and this has kind of been like egged on. Look, there'll be so much like scrutiny over like some college kids chanting "From the river to the sea." And look, but for the
okay, I think that's what he's about to say. Like, I'm not down with that. But I initially, when people were asking, like, should those protests be quelled in the sense that we should completely get rid of them. And initially, I was like, well, no, this is university. It should be free speech and all that. But then you remember, like, wait a minute, they haven't really been following this idea of free speech for a long time. They've been just going with whatever is convenient for them. And I happen not to like the way that this particular protest is going, so I don't really care. Again, I don't really care. Excuse me. Zibby said, not supper. I would be taking... I don't know. What? All right. So, all right. We're getting to the point, guys, where if I skip what you said, just assume that I tried. Carl said Israel sells a lot of weapons for us for the U.S. to people the U.S. does not want to be seen selling weapons to, like Lord of War, but way bigger. I don't know what Lord of War is. I'm going to assume it's a video game, which is why I don't know about it. The aid they get is mostly smuggling fees. Okay. Yeah. I mean, sure.
Record, if I was in charge of those protests, I'd say stop chanting that, because even if you don't mean it to mean the Jews are, even if you don't mean it that way, which some people will argue they don't, and that's fine. Maybe that's not what you mean. Maybe you mean is from the river to the sea, everyone will be free and whatever. Maybe that's how you mean it. But it's also the same thing Hamas chants, and they clearly mean something else when they say that. Exactly. So like maybe just use a different term.
Right. You can't use a swastika for its old timey use.
Right. It's like, if nothing else, it's a bad idea. Yeah. However, for all the scrutiny there'll be over what these 20-year-olds are hollering at Columbia, when Benjamin Netanyahu is saying they're Amalek as you're going into this area.
I don't know what that means. You're Amalek? Shout out again to Zippy. Said, not supper. Israel would be better off taking over Gaza and Palestine and revitalizing it all. Let's give it to them, then leave the Middle East. I ain't mad at it. And yeah, I mean, that again goes back to this notion of like, what is the goal here? If the goal is to eliminate a people who are trying to eliminate you, but they're only trying to eliminate you because you're trying to eliminate them, then both of you are doing the same thing. Like, okay, then just go. And I mean, mutual combat at that point. And I mean, definitely, you know, Israel definitely is an ally to the U.S. So if I had a choice, then sure, yeah, let Israel be the winner. But the involvement, the level of involvement doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me. And I'm sure that there's something that I'm missing about it. But it just in all this time, I've been trying to figure it out. The last year, I've been trying to figure it out. And sometimes you see everybody making a big deal about a particular issue, and it's just something that either you don't understand or it doesn't resonate with you. And you're like, I don't get it. What is the thing? And sometimes because you legitimately don't get it, and somebody explains it to you, like, oh, okay, I didn't get it. And other times it's like, I don't think I personally need to care about this, and I think that's okay. Am said, I don't like that religion is not supposed to be in education. Then when actually paying for college, all bets are off. Most kids' parents pay tuition, and I'd be damned if I paid for that drama. So I mean, I definitely think that there's reason to separate the types of rules that we have in K through 12 education and even public university. That I get what you're saying, but I'm kind of okay with all bets are being off. If all bets are off, if it is actual free speech, then we're good. But because it's pick and choose, well, this is offensive, but we like this, and well, that is offensive, but I don't like that. I don't like that. I just consistency is key. Because it'd be cheaper to convert the oil we have than all the damn wars. Woke and liberalism is a religion. It needs to be removed from the schools. As soon as we learn how to make that argument.
Benjamin Netanyahu is saying they're Amalek as you're going into this area, which, you know,
does anybody know what that means? What the fuck is Amalek? Amalek. Okay, according to the Hebrew Bible, the enemy of the nation of Israelites. Oh, the Amalek. Okay, Amalekites. The name Amalek can refer to descendants of Amalek. Anyone who lived in the. Okay, so more religious bullshit of hating people that you don't know for no reason except God said so. And so yes, but paying for one side to block the other from actually learning. And there you go. That's the issue, is that they're picking sides. They're picking sides. If they weren't picking sides, then all bets are off. But now that they're picking sides, they're like, okay, well, I mean, you know, that changes the my position. Now I'm going to be a lot more biased towards my quote unquote side because you are picking sides instead of university being a apolitical place where people of all different walks of political thought can come together. Then you've created a liberal fucking, I don't know what to call it. Dietrich said, call it what it is. I could have learned more on my own, but my education constructors did not inform me of what any other ally does for us, or at least of a notable scale. Thus, I lack interest and empathy. I said, shit, me too. And it's not like they're, you know, on October 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th, then maybe this is not a reasonable position. But October is tomorrow. The month of October is tomorrow, and nobody has made a strong argument. And we've been looking. I don't know about you. We've been looking. I've been looking for somebody to break down why is it not that any of the facts are right or wrong, and if I did care that this has a moral weight and that has moral weight, and what should or should not be, but why I specifically should have emotional interest in this problem. It does not make sense.
Story from the Bible is that you're supposed to kill the women and the children. And the story is that they fucked up by not killing all the women and the children. And then like they came back and like, now, even if you could argue he doesn't mean it that way, it's like, okay.
Well, that's convenient. Yeah, people remove the dogma and emotion from religion, then it could work in K through 12, but the system cherry picks who gets to bully whom. Well, I mean, the entire idea is that you don't, if you remove the dogma and emotion from religion, now you're just talking about behavior. Now you're just talking about behavior. It doesn't need to be more complicated than that, because spirituality, or that desire to connect with more, and that is organic. That's going to happen. That's going to happen anyway. And the more people who are able to connect with it in an authentic way, rather than, oh, you had this amorphous experience, it has to be exactly this, it was God talking to you. The more that you gatekeep what that can be, the more people will naturally just understand it. You don't have to teach what love is, because it's just a natural part of being a human. Yeah, we can definitely see why kids who are not socialized are not good in relationships, or just social relationships in general. We can see that people who don't talk to dudes that don't talk to a lot of girls are not good in romantic relationships. But the point is, if they already were socialized to do that, meaning bring it back to religion, if we already practiced being nice to each other, respecting the structure of a family, so on and so forth, then we wouldn't need the dogma and emotion. It would just be like, this is how it is. And said, how I feel about Jews. Sorry, but my ancestors were impacted by the Bolshevik Jews pre-World War II, post-World War I. I lack sympathy because they treat goys like less than human, and I think it's gross. And I've been again, I don't care about the Jews, but I definitely have this perspective about many, not all, Christians, that you think that you're better because you have the right answer. And so I don't think that's fair enough to generalize the whole group. But when you see that the through line is all this particular ideology, ain't my fault. Jared said, facts. After October 7, nearly all possible deals for a two-state solution went out the window, and we should just stay out of this last man standing battle. Well said. That's where I'm at. He says, religion has a subtle holier than thou way of passive aggressively bullying others. The cults are more overt. Yeah. And that's why you see that society right now is at a place where everybody is dogmatic in their beliefs. The religious people are like, oh, well, we're going to pray for you. And the leftists are just raging lunatics. Y'all are both the same. It's just for a different thing.
Back and now, even if you could argue she doesn't mean it that way, it's like, okay, but you're saying
Amalek, the story from the Bible.
The story is they were like a tribe who was like an evil tribe, and you had to kill all of them, kill the women and the children, and that's the specific lesson of that story, is that you're supposed to kill the women and the children.
God is love.
And then you conduct a campaign like this. This is, by the way, this is what was in the South Africa case that they brought to the UN, and that they, the ICJ basically said that Israel is plausibly committing a genocide. And they didn't exactly, they haven't yet determined that it is or isn't, but they said it's plausible.
Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. Either way, not good. Not the poor little Israelis, the poor Jews, they just have no home. What are we going to do? That story is I think, a big reason why people are very willing to generalize about the Jewish people. I think it doesn't make sense. There's a victim mentality that is not appreciated, or not appreciated. There's a victim mentality that's not. I don't know the word, but you guys know what I mean. Like, yes, of course, people have been, Jews were oppressed to extreme degrees, and still are. But that's, I don't know. This is why I need to be better on this stuff, because I'm not as articulate. Good thing Dave is. Zippy said, Bolsheviks are commies. They have no other religion but the state. The Nazis were the same sort of commies. Yeah, I like that. Carl said, if you listen to libertarians, they always end up sounding like communists because both are Fabian cults that have a false idea of human nature. People never just leave each other alone. Saying what did he say that sounded like a communist because of the false idea of human nature? Yeah. You guys get me. Something in there. Overemphasize is good. Yeah. Dietrich says, we teach children that being offended is for the weak. Truth would be rampant. Bingo. Unfortunately, they are taught that being offended emboldens them for who they are. As such, lessons made Fauci the science. Okay, Senator Paul.
Exactly. They haven't yet determined that it is or isn't, but they said it's plausible. But anyway, to my point that I'm making about what Sad was saying is that it reminds me of Sam Harris, where he sits here and he goes, well, imagine this hypothetical. Imagine COVID was 100 times as deadly and the vaccine was perfect against stopping transmission and there were no vaccine injuries. Well, hey, now you don't look so good anymore, do you, Joe Rogan?
No, he wasn't.
Well, imagine if my scenario was exactly with the perfect parameters that I wanted it. I wouldn't be wrong then. Correct, sir. If things were different, they would be different. That's Sam's argument. And Joe is trying to save him here, but I listened to it. That's his argument.
He wasn't saying that. He was saying you could, when someone's saying you could never mandate a vaccine or argue for a mandate, and he was saying if there was a vaccine, you could. He was making an intellectual argument. He's correct that you could argue that if there was a vaccine that had zero side effects and was 100% effective, and if everybody took it, the disease stops. You could make that argument.
Well, what he would sure, but that's not really relevant to the thing. So yeah, okay, fine. If there was a perfect vaccine that had no side effects, number one, you wouldn't need to mandate it because people would just get it. Number two, because so many people would get it, if there were people who didn't want it, it wouldn't fucking matter because there's no side effects and it's perfect. It's a perfect vaccine. But that doesn't address the problems with the problem is that the vaccine is not perfect. So saying, well, if it was perfect, then it would be perfect is not a relevant argument.
Then how would we feel? But he goes, then how would we feel about what Joe Rogan is saying and what RFK is saying when they were, you know what I mean? But the point is that thing
that's
not
exist.
The hypothetical. Like that.
Well,
okay,
not only
fine.
that, it doesn't exist in nature.
Right.
There's no vaccines that are 100% safe with no side effects. None of them.
I'm just saying, I'm not against engaging in a thought experiment to think about like what that scenario would look like. But at the same time, you're like, it does seem like that's serving in this case as a distraction.
Yep. Shout out to Matthew King. Welcome to the party. Good to see ya. Good to see ya. He said, if you make a peanut butter sandwich with tuna and no peanut butter, it wouldn't be a peanut butter sandwich. Yeah, like so. Let's say, but even using this example, it's even more ridiculous. It's even more ridiculous. Somebody is allergic to peanut butter. And they're saying, there might be. I know there's no peanut butter. I know that it's not a peanut butter sandwich, but okay, all right. So somebody's allergic to peanut butter, and then Sam is here offering them a tuna sandwich, and you're like, oh, well, but you didn't you just make a peanut butter sandwich with that same knife? And you're like, yeah, but I mean, I wiped it off, and it's like, okay, well. If it was a tuna sandwich that wasn't made with a peanut butter knife beforehand, then no, I wouldn't be worried. But the fact of the matter is, it was made with the peanut butter knife beforehand. That is the issue. So to just hypotheticalize the issue out of the equation doesn't really make any sense. It is an intellectual argument. It's an intellectual argument in the sense that if things were different, things would be different. That is intellectually accurate. Sure, yeah. But that means that when you say it's an intellectual argument, he means it's merely an intellectual exercise. And it still fails.
From the real world scenario that's going on here. So like, if you're going to say, if Israel, like, yes, I would not recommend Israel lay down all of their arms, completely disarm themselves, and then open up the wall to Gaza and allow Hamas to come in. But that's not on the table. That's never going to happen. So like even thinking about that as a thought experiment doesn't really prove that much.
And so that's the kind of thing where you'll hear me say, like, that's an interesting conversation. We can have that conversation. What if we had a perfect vaccine? That's a conversation that we can have. But that's a different conversation than whether or not people should be mandated to take the COVID vaccination.
What's actually going on here is like what Israel is doing to Gaza. And, you know,
right. But if you could flip it around, the opposite would be true. Like if Hamas did lay down all their weapons and if they did completely give up, you're going to have some Israeli soldiers that do not give a fuck that still want to shoot them. But for the most part, if there was nothing, if they completely gave up, which is also not going to happen. But if that did happen, you couldn't see a situation where Israel just continues bombing.
Maybe not, but then what do they go to? Just being subjugated by the Israel, back to the status quo of just being a stateless people of permanent refugees with no natural rights whatsoever, no ability to trade with the world, no ability to come and leave. You can't have an airport, you can't have a seaport, you can't go out fishing past where some IDF guy decides you're not allowed to.
So, Cole, sorry, I think maybe I missed it, but you were talking about how libertarians sound like communists because of a false idea of human nature. What was it that Dave said about that?
You can't have a seaport. You can't go out fishing past where some IDF guy decides you're not allowed to. So, like, yeah, if Hamas laid down all their arms, perhaps Israel would stop the bombing campaign, and they would just continue subjugation forever, which has been the Likud party official policy since they were created by the terrorist Menachem Begin. Like, since this party, that is the ruling party in Israel, was created, their goal has been that the Palestinian people never get their own state, they never get their own freedom, and that's resulted in this.
So Infilm says, what the hell is he talking about? Gaza was an autonomous area. They had tons of coastline. They had infrastructure. Unfortunately, they had a terrorist group running them. So meaning that say more. Okay. And then
never get their own freedom. And that's been resulted.
Because we're still in hypothetical land. So we're still talking about ifs.
In this.
And if you don't give them their own, there's no way you can justify it. No way you can justify that a whole entire group of people never get to be a country. That they don't get the rights of the Israelis. They don't get the rights of a sovereign country. They're trapped.
Yeah, nothing. Literally no rights whatsoever.
That's kind of crazy that that's being done by Israel. If you really think about it, it's kind of crazy.
Well, in a way it is. And then in another way, it's kind of not. It's kind of like there's this weird, hurt people type thing. Like when you kind of suffer this trauma and we're speaking collectively here, so it's not exactly the same as an individual, but like you suffer this trauma and then you use that to justify doing whatever the hell you got to do so that you never suffer that trauma again. And then you weirdly end up kind of like inflicting something on another group of people.
Yeah.
So Anyfilm said, what the hell is he talking about? Gaza was an autonomous area. They had tons of coastline. They had infrastructure. Unfortunately, they had a terrorist group running them, meaning that Israel pulled out of Gaza completely in 2006. Do they have to? Do they have been running? They pulled out. They have been running their own country. Since then, the only time Israel interferes is when Hamas attacks. I don't think he's disagreeing with you. I think he is specifically saying that the simplistic argument that if everybody just laid their if Israel, or rather if Hamas put their weapons down, that the war would be over. I think he's acknowledging that wouldn't be the case because of stuff like this. So the choices we make affect the choices we will have. Bingo. Which is why free will doesn't make any fucking sense.
Again, and then you weirdly end up kind of like inflicting something on another group of people and kind of in a weird way holding them responsible for the trauma you suffered, even though they really had very little, nothing.
You mean like how black people look at the modern white person and act like they're the ones who owned slaves? Got it.
To do with the actual trauma.
It's really an ancient kind of conflict. The Israel-Palestine is very ancient in the fact that it's like the hate between them is so strong and they're right next door to each other, which is why I don't understand why we think that as America we can do anything to fix that. This is deeply ingrained in their culture. people used to rocket back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that was the fear of neighboring tribes, that people from the other side were going to come over and rape the women and children and kill your babies and slaughter the men.
And not like an irrational fear, like a fear based on this really happens.
Real.
You know what I mean?
And it's happening in Israel. I mean, that's what's crazy.
The other thing, though, is that, and that's all true. But the other thing is that,
let me go back to what Indie Film is saying here about you know, how and okay, so he's saying Israel supplies clean water and power to Gaza. They're still doing it. That's insane. So if I want to, I'm not really it's hard to tell where people are, because everybody has a different perspective on this stuff. It's not as simple as the culture war stuff, where you kind of understand where people are coming from based on, you know, are you on this side or that side? This conflict is simply just not that simple. But like, Dave is very open about his qualms with what Israel's doing. And he's also very open about the fact that you know, Hamas is a terrorist group and they're bombing indiscriminately and all this stuff. So again, I'm trying to gather what's the meat of what you're saying. So you're saying these things happen and therefore that's called post-traumatic slave syndrome, apparently.
The other thing, though, is that and that's all true. But the other thing is that, you know, there are these examples, right? Like where there's Ireland and England and they're right next to each other and like things are just cool now. And France and Germany are right next to each other and they're just cool now.
It's almost like part of their culture doesn't bank on the elimination of another ethnic group of people. It's almost like that conflict was about something else. And so if you solve that conflict, then the people themselves have no issue. Even says it just bothers me when people are blaming Israel for the plight of the godsends when they've been autonomous since 2006. Blaming Israel for the plight of the godsends. I mean, I don't know that we're saying blame in the sense that like you're the bad guy and you're the good guy. I think we're just talking about facts. Like this is why this is so complicated, because there is no good guy and there is no bad guy. They're both shitty operations, and they're shitty in different. Okay, I was like, is that a thing? For the plight of Gaza since they're autonomous, yeah. And but I mean, again, it's not like, you know, in 2006 either everything was solved and nothing's happened since 2006, or before 2006 that everything was good and there was just a plume of conflict and then they solved it. So that's what I'm saying. Like it makes sense to me why these people, in their ideology, it makes sense to them to continue fighting in the ways that they do, especially when you take the perspective of we want America's help, we want, you know, whoever's help. Then when you're doing shit like you know, I don't know, name anything that like just bombing hospitals or civilians and stuff like that, even if the other side is also doing it and doing it worse and not sending out warnings and this, that, whatever, that doesn't make it good for you. It doesn't lead to the end. It's not a means to end the conflict. It's just a tit for tat. And so I don't have any like, oh no, the poor Israelis who are also bombing children. Like, miss me with that. Next
to each other, and like things are just.
I'm not saying that Palestine is better. I'm just saying, miss me with all the poor Israelis. Don't call them bad. They gave them water.
Cool now. And France and Germany are right next to each other, and they're just cool now.
But Ireland and Northern Ireland were at war with each other forever.
No, but I'm just making the point that, and then it's over, and now they're not at war anymore. And like Egypt.
Exactly. Shout out to the Plunge Cast. Welcome to the party. Good to see you. Went
to war with Israel 4 times between the it was 1948, 56, 67, and 72 or 73.
Did I say that wrong? Was Ireland at war with Northern Ireland?
Yeah, because they were
Southern Ireland.
Well, they were the British controlled,
right?
Like
but it was really.
Well, you have Ireland and you have Northern Ireland.
England.
Yes, yeah. It was by proxy, England, basically.
Yeah. So Northern Ireland is part of the UK, and or the other way around. I don't know. One of them is part of the UK, and one of them is not.
Dominating the Irish. And then, by the way, the Irish turned to terrorism when they were being dominated by the English.
Shocker.
And yeah, which is another thing that
That's
real interesting.
how you have to do it. It's the only way to go to war.
Well, look,
if you have a smaller army and they have all the money, you got to figure out a way to get them.
Well, here's the craziest part of this, right? Is that, and I thought we talked a bunch about the history of this last time I was on, but I don't think I mentioned this. Maybe I did. But the craziest part of all of it is that the Israelis, I shouldn't say the Israelis 5 seconds before they became Israelis, like right before the creation of the state of Israel, they embraced terrorism. And by the way, these terrorists who were the leaders of these terrorist organizations, like Menachem Begin and Yitzhak Shamir, they went on to be prime ministers of Israel, but they were terrorists. And I don't mean this as a pejorative, like self-described terror, like they embraced terrorism.
What was their organization called?
Menachem Begin's was the Irgun. That was his militia, and then there was Lehi, or the Stern Gang, and then there was the Haganah, who was like the biggest one. And they were not quite as terroristic, but they also were involved in a bunch of it. And
they just dabbled a little bit. Punchcast said Iran has been using proxies to destroy Israel, believing anything else is placing one's head in the sand and expecting that the hatred is not real. Anyfield said the Republic of Ireland is its own country. Northern Ireland is part of the UK. The fucked up thing about that is that the Irish identify with the Palestinians. Well, I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of the recent migration there has definitely changed let's say the attitudes there. So Punchcast is saying this is 2008 in New Zealand, using proxies to destroy Israel, believing anything else. Yeah, and again, this is what I mean, that the conflict isn't we need to save our land. It isn't we need to protect this, that, or the other. It isn't these people are doing something wrong, so we have to stop them from doing something. It's these people are evil, and all of them, women and children included, must die on both sides. I'm not getting into that. Carl said there's a Fabianism embracing there's the Fabianism embracing terrorism as the hammer to destroy society and rebuild the perfect society. Libertarians are geopolitical children. But what are you referring to? You said there, but I don't. That's what I'm asking you. What like? Explain yourselves, guys. Don't expect that just because you say something that I know what you mean. You gotta articulate your point. This is the whole point of this channel, guys. You gotta say the thing. You gotta say the thing. When Dave said this is he was wrong because this, that, and that. Oh, there it is. That's not an argument.
And they were not quite as terroristic, but they also were involved in a bunch of it. And their justification for it was to drive out the occupying force, which was the British at the time. After World War II, the Zionists who were in Palestine were had enough of the British occupying.
That is such a reductionist way to Okay. I mean, yeah, if that's what you want to say.
The area, and they were very angry because they had limited Jewish migration during the run up to the Holocaust. So they had a real beef with the British at this point, even though the British had kind of allowed them to have a chance to establish a Jewish homeland there. But so they embraced terrorism to drive them out. You can go look up the King David Hotel. Killed a whole bunch of innocent people, including Jews, in the hotel, because they just wanted to use terrorism to drive out an occupying force. And they actually introduced terrorism into that region. And many of the same tactics that the Palestinians went on to embrace were stuff that they picked up from the Jewish terrorists at that time. But then the same Israelis will turn around and be like, well, I don't know why these Palestinians have embraced terrorism. And they're telling you it's for the same reason. It's to drive out an occupying force. Now, of course, the major difference there is that Israelis came to stay, whereas the British were there. They had this was a satellite. They had their home country back in Europe, and they could be driven out. It's a whole different thing to try to drive someone out who's like, no, we're setting up our homes here. And
there's more of us.
Yeah, well, not that much. I mean, there's Palestinians and Israelis is pretty close if you count all of them.
Well, you're also backed by America.
Well, that's the major difference. Well, and so
Carl, I was going to ask you that. So the I think you're misunderstanding the point. I don't think he's saying that terrorism is okay. I think he's saying there's certain conflicts where it's just not as simple as good guy and bad guy. That's what I'm hearing. If you can point out where I'm wrong, I'm willing to listen, but if you really believe that if you went up to Dave Smith and said, "Hey, Dave Smith, do you think George Washington was a terrorist?" They'd be like, "Yeah, of course." Okay, if that's what you think.
But that's basically my essential argument, is that America shouldn't be playing this role.
Well, and this is being argued out now.
Yeah.
This is a big point of contention now politically, right? Because the Biden administration is not giving the same amount.
No, he did not say that.
Amount of support to Israel that it was.
But I was going to ask you about like the Boston Tea Party. Would you say that the Boston Tea Party was terrorism? Would you say there was any things that would not be considered under or that would be considered a war crime that was committed by the colonies? M said the United Nations says Israel has attacked more than 250 healthcare facilities in Gaza and the West Bank, including hospitals, clinics, ambulance, and their patients. Yeah, but they're the good guys, Am. They're the good guys. Come on. Plunge said his thing seems to be one man terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. It's almost like okay, so what's wrong with this? I'm not even I want you to articulate why this is a bad position. If he's so bad and so ignorant, then you should be very, 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 very easy to articulate why this is a stupid position. I agree. And it was totally okay. And when you are the smaller entity and you are legitimately being oppressed, which again, but that's my point. He went from people who specifically said, yes, we are the terrorists in their whatever. And then he moved that over. Well, as Joe said, you kind of have to if you're the smaller, the smaller entity. I'm like, isn't that convenient? Isn't that convenient for you? That this revolution was not a terrorism, and I agree on the large scale. But this is why you have to be able to understand the context of what people are saying. If you're just listening for buzzwords, then you're gonna misunderstand. Yeah, like is this like what? We're watching the same video, right? And again, go back and put the words that you think he said. Give me the argument that you thought he made, and we'll go back.
Right, because the Biden administration is not giving the same amount of support to Israel that it was.
They've been giving, basically. I mean, what's really going on is that Joe Biden, this is a disaster politically for Joe Biden, and something like, I'm looking at the polls recently,
I think
50% of his base.
What does this have to do with anything?
Different Twitter followers.
What do you mean?
My Twitter feed seems like he's doing a great job.
Really? It does, yeah. He's doing excellent. He's totally got it down.
There's a lot of people that are arguing that.
Did I sent you
jobs?
I sent you his latest a clip from his speech that new Biden just dropped.
I mean, maybe I'm not listening. Maybe I don't get it. But and that's why I'm asking for an explanation, because I'm very willing to be wrong. But I'm just getting more ad hominems at Dave. Shout out to the Ancient of Days. Welcome. Said it's terrorism to make people eat at McDonald's. Who's making people eat at McDonald's? I mean, I wouldn't suggest going there too often, but are people being forced to eat McDonald's and only McDonald's? That would be haram. Welcome to the party. Matthew King said it's almost like neither side are good. Both sides have blood on their hands. No country is clean. We all have skeletons. It's almost like it. Almost. That's what I mean. This I don't understand. Like, no, exactly. You said it exactly. No country is clean. Especially not the U.S. What do we? I mean, what?
His latest a clip from his speech that new Biden just dropped. And it's the newest, the newest one. He goes, and by the way, it's not, he meant to say, I think, financial crash, but he said pandemic. But he said during the pandemic, when he was vice president, Barack Obama sent him to Detroit. And you're just like, dude, what?
Why did he send him to Detroit?
Why would they send you to Detroit to deal with COVID?
What? Now, I saw someone saying that perhaps it was the H1N1 pandemic, which did happen during the Biden administration or during the Obama administration when he was vice president.
I think he was talking about.
He would have probably said a previous pandemic.
Yeah.
The government indeed is evil. But going to our poll, good, bad, neither, or both. And so far, nobody has said good, but the plurality of y'all, almost 50%, have said both. And it's hard to argue. There's definitely, I am not an anarchist, so I do think that some level of structure is relevant. But depending on how you read the question, if we're talking about the concept of government, then I would say that the concept of government is good. Governments are always bad, however necessary. And so I would probably say both as well. DJ said if you squint, oh my God. If you squint hard enough, peace can look like terrorism. That is a comment of the night. That is a comment of the night. Well done. And said back in 2019, the UN released a report on the coast of Israel occupation for the Palestinian people. The unrealized oil and national gas potential. I didn't see the dots. We'll come back to that.
I think he was talking about.
He would have probably said a previous pandemic.
Yeah. The point is just that he does it
remember
so
back
much.
in 2009, he's out of his fucking mind.
If it was occasional, people would let this stuff go.
Yeah.
But anyway, just to the look. I also thought, because some of these guys, by the way, you had on your show, like, I like them. I'm not even like, like Coleman Hughes. I don't know him personally, but I like him. And he seems really smart. And I haven't read his book, but I bet I would love it.
Well, you two together would be a fascinating conversation just about the Israel-Palestine conflict.
Yeah. Well, I would love to have a conversation because I think he's a good faith guy. And I think and he's very smart. But he also kind of, there were two things that kind of rubbed me the wrong way when he was on the show. Number one was that he started by kind of getting into this argument about, which I see a lot of people who are supporting this conflict doing. The argument about like, okay, well, here are the number of total civilians dead, and here are the number of Hamas militants dead, and let's look at that ratio. And then is that ratio that far off from what you find in a typical war?
Yeah. And Matthew, I think this is, correct me if I'm wrong, Dietrich, but I think this is along the lines of what Dietrich was saying. I believe even when you try to do good, they fail miserably and make something else worse. That's been the last 20 years of U.S. geopolitics, has it not? And said, relating to the plan for the new Middle East, I'm not very familiar with that. Again, just over there, they're doing so much that is focused inward. And while that's happening, like, this is what another part of it that I don't understand is that while they're fighting each other, then they don't have Israel is enough of an issue that we shouldn't have to worry about. We shouldn't have to directly worry about Iran as much. Now, if we get to the place, again, they've been fighting. Israel has existed for how long? So once Israel, if and when Israel no longer exists, then yeah, I definitely agree. Okay, now it's a different situation. But to act as if we don't act and back Israel now, that will inevitably be the case. I do not believe that. I don't know. No. Nope. No. When we have shit like Hurricane Helene going around, we need that money for Americans.
Is that ratio that far off from what you find in a typical war? And there's a few problems with it.
It's almost like the world isn't just pretty, and it's almost like it's just not good guys and bad guys.
Yes. Number one, the numbers are totally unreliable. And so you're having this conversation.
Sides, right?
Yes, on both sides. I mean, both sides are totally incentivized to exaggerate the numbers. And also, in the fog of war, it's very hard to keep up with these numbers. We never really know the numbers of dead in war until like years later when the excess mortality is calculated, and then you get a better idea of what was really going on there.
Yeah, that's another thing when people are like, well, this many people died on this side and that many died on that side, so therefore these are the bad guys. It's like, what? Number one, why do you think you know that? That's another reason or another aspect as to why I don't try too hard to understand the nuances of these things. Number one, you just, if you're going to be if you're going to do this, then you have to have a focus, and you have to know enough about what you're focusing on that, even as a regular person just paying attention to news and politics and the goings on of the world, it forces you to be a little bit even more narrow. And the fact of the fact of the matter is, if I'm looking to pull new people into understanding why having these discussions is important, then the people who are interested in the particulars of geopolitics are already having these types of discussions. I don't remember where I was going with that. Did he just say something?
Later when the excess mortality.
Oh, yeah. And so when people are like acting like they know exactly what's going on all the way across the world, minute to minute, it's like, bro, you don't know. Who are you? Who is it that you trust so much to give you real-time news information? Unless it's somebody who you already trusted, who physically went over there and is doing that. And I'm not saying those people don't exist. But I'm saying people don't know the news about the entry-level culture war shit. And you're telling me that you're getting legitimately sourced information on a war that is currently right now happening. Get the fuck out of my face with that bullshit.
Is calculated, and then you get a better idea of what was really going on there.
Billions have died in only 30 years of communist. Whew. I would say, well, which are we talking about? The American Revolution? We're talking about the American Revolution. There's been a lot of revolutions. We've been talking about all the world.
Israeli government talking about the number of Hamas militants they've killed seems to be them just pulling numbers out of their ass. Like, they drop these bombs. They don't know how many, who got who, and who
Are they
was
going
a part
in there
of.
and checking dog tags?
Yeah, they're not. You know what I mean? And
you got, oh my God, we have to pull this up. When Hassan was like, yo, that's a JDAM. I could tell by the sound. Hassan tries to identify JDAM bomb. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. No. Come on. I have to, all right, I know it's in here.
I confronted Twitch's biggest political streamer when it comes to his pattern of behavior of covering breaking news. He will immediately jump to conclusions, acting like he's an expert on stuff he knows nothing about.
I was right about
the JDAM called on.
Yes, he knows nothing about. He doesn't apologize. Instead, he shifts the goalpost and doubles down. Sometimes he does it by speculating missile technology he knows nothing about.
I'm gonna put this side by side. I want you to fucking understand something, okay? So that is a JDAM called on.
There it is, bro. Proof.
Do you think that seems similar to one another?
Other times he just...
Yes, Hassan. Those are both bombs. Again, it's like, who the fuck is you? Like, what? And of course, it came out that he was wrong. Of course, he was wrong. How the fuck could you know that? And like, this is coming from somebody who works behind microphones. If I'm saying the same thing, I'm going to hold a note. And depending on where the microphone is, it's going to sound different to you. But these people are so confident. And so I ask you guys, those of you who are very like, Israel bad and Palestine, or vice versa, who is it that you trust so much where you're getting this information? Who? I ask that question all the time when we talk about this stuff. And there's always people in the chat, and I never get an answer.
But anyway, even that, even if the numbers were right, it's like, look, dude, if you look at the population density and you just look at the number of bombs that Israel has dropped, and you just see a lot of the footage that we've seen, and you just listen to stories that doctors are telling. I literally just saw an interview a couple weeks ago with a doctor who just got back from Gaza, and he was talking about how they have a major anesthesia shortage over there. So just think about the implications of that, like what that means. It means they're operating on kids without anesthesia. You know what I mean?
Jesus
it's just
Christ.
so the point is that if you're talking about, okay, well, this many Hamas people are dying compared to this many innocent babies are dying, that's not the question. Okay, like when you're inflicting this level of human suffering on people, the question for any decent civilized person is this absolutely necessary?
Is this the only way to do it?
Is there any other option?
That would be a good question. And so outside of the real world, it bothers me that a lot of people support Jews because of the Bible stating chosen, but also talks about the synagogue of Satan and faux Jews in Revelations. Yeah, well, it's a problem when you put all your faith in one particular book or ideology. It can go wrong.
Is this absolutely necessary?
Is this the only way to do it?
Is there any other option besides doing this? And as soon as you frame the question that way, you realize that, oh yeah, there actually is. And that it's not true that Israel, there will just be October 7th after October 7th if Israel stops doing this. The fact is that, of course, Netanyahu's never allowed a real investigation into October 7th to happen.
I said shit. Me too. Let's see if so we got shout out to this person on Kick. Let's see if they're an actual viewer or if they are trying to sell me something. British she said, "Hey man, I'm really having a good time watching your stream." Well, thank you very much. I'd like to be a part of the community and stay updated with your schedule. If you don't mind adding me on Discord, my username is blah 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 blah. I do mind adding you on Discord, but I am very happy to drop the link of my server if you would like to join my community. That would be the best way to do that. If you are legit, then welcome to the party, and I appreciate you saying so, but I know how Kick rolls, so probably not. Carl said, I've watched geopolitics for 25 years. Every time the ruling elite want everyone distracted from something they're doing, they crank up Israel-Palestine. It's a distraction. Wouldn't be surprised. Am said, quote, my kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, then my servants would be fighting so that I would not be handed over to the Jews. But as it is, my kingdom is not of this realm. Is your kingdom of this world? Punch Gas. For me, I watch a lot of different reports from various viewpoints because way back in 2004, when I was doing research into documentary making, I learned the more resources and opinions, the better. And that's great, but 10 bad opinions and resources is not really that much better than one, right? So again, I'm not questioning that you are doing the work of looking at these different things. I'm just questioning how you can verify the legitimacy of any one of those sources. I know that was why I said that.
Of course, Netanyahu's never allowed a real investigation.
For real people, if you'd like to join, it's a good time. And it's free.
Into October 7th to happen. But everybody pretty much concludes that Israel dropped the ball in a massive way, that their security was just in shambles. And all they really needed to do was not rely so much on these, machine gun robots and have actual soldiers at the border. They could easily just stop this right now.
Wasn't there an issue of protests where the soldiers were allocated towards?
Yes, yes. It's basically they had. So I think as a result of the protests against Netanyahu, he had started to ally with some even further right-wing groups than he normally would have. And to appease them, he was pulling soldiers off of the Gaza border and putting them over toward the West Bank, which is what the religious Jews on the right really care about. And yes, they basically got caught with their pants down. But I'm just saying they could just stop doing this. It's not they all die or they keep doing this.
So Dietrich said, government is the objective. It's the service, the force, the rock. A rock can be moved. A force can be altered. A service can be manipulative. It's the subjective use of rulers that makes the difference. That's why I said neither in the poll. Interesting. Very, very fair. Indie Film said, I see. October 7th was Israel's fault for not having a strong enough defense. Why are you trying to do this? Why are you trying to like dichotomize this? I don't get it. I don't get it. Did he say that? He didn't say that at all. But he's not agreeing with you, so you're going to straw man him. Come on, bro. You're better than that. You're better.
They could just stop doing this. It's not they all die or they keep doing this. They could stop, and Israel can still protect itself. In fact, I'd argue their security would be enhanced if they stopped doing this. But the other thing, which you brought up to Coleman Hughes, was that you mentioned to him, you said, what about the
play it back? Okay, fine.
He was pulling soldiers off of the Gaza border and putting them over toward the West Bank.
You tell me when I missed the part that he said it's Israel's fault.
Which is what the religious Jews on the right really care about. And yes, they basically got caught with their pants down. But I'm just saying they could just stop doing this. It's not they all die or they keep doing this. They could stop, and Israel can still protect itself. In fact, really October 7th to happen. But
we'll go all the way back to what we're talking about.
And that it's not true that Israel, there will just be October 7th after October 7th if Israel stops doing this. The fact is that, of course, Netanyahu's never allowed a real investigation into October 7th to happen. But everybody pretty much concludes that Israel dropped the ball in a massive way, that their security was just in shambles. And all they really needed to do was not rely so much on these, machine gun robots and have actual.
Is that what you're talking about? Is that what you're talking about? That their security failed? Do you think that the Secret Service failed when Donald Trump got shot in the fucking face? Because guess what? They did. Their defenses did fail. They did get into their land. They did kill a bunch of people. But maybe that's not it. Let's keep going.
Soldiers at the border. They could easily just stop this right now.
Of protests where the soldiers were allocated towards.
Yes, yes. It's basically they had I think as a result of the protests against Netanyahu, he had started to ally with some even further right-wing groups than he normally would have, and to appease them, he was pulling soldiers off of the Gaza border and putting them over toward the West Bank, which is what the religious Jews on the right really care about. And yes, they basically got
because they had different things or different security measures that allowed an enemy force to come in. Then that is literally what happened. Yes and yes. Yes, their defenses failed, but to say that he didn't say it was their fault. All he said was their defenses failed. That's my whole fucking point, dude. My whole point is that it's not a moral judgment. It is just a statement of fact. Their defenses failed. That's all he said. You're the one adding fault. You're the one adding moral fault. That's not what he said, dude. That's not what he said. If he did say that, then I would be right there agreeing with you, but that's not what he said. That is not the words that he said. That is not the sentiment that he was articulating. I feel like you're getting clogged on this because you're looking, where's he going to say Israel's wrong? Where's he going to say Israel? Oh, I said Israel was wrong. That's what it seems like. That's what it seems like, dude. Chill out. I'm not the one here saying, sending money to either side or saying either side is good or bad. So you don't have to be antagonistic here. But that's not what he said. Stop trying to look for an argument and just listen to the conversation that's happening.
West Bank, which is what the religious Jews on the right really care about. And yes, they basically got caught with their pants down. But I'm just saying they could just stop doing this. It's not they all die or they keep doing this. They could stop, and Israel can still protect itself. In fact, I'd argue their security would be enhanced if they stop doing this. But the other thing, which you
would I would agree with that. If you stop, if one side is attacking you and you're on defense and you're just defending yourself, then it's more likely that there's not a reason for the other side who's like, well, you got hit us back, so now we got to hit you back. And especially if you're on the world stage asking for billions of dollars from the United States, then maybe we're going to hold you to a higher standard. At least I am. He said, Israel really dropped the ball. Do you disagree? Did they do a good job on October 7th? Their defenses were perfect on October 7th. That's so it's the I mean, like, come on. I mean, this is you're trying to smuggle your argument in where it doesn't fit. I know you want this. I know you want him to say it's Israel's fault for October 7th. But I'm sorry, he did not say that. And if somebody did say that, then I would agree with you. But that's not what we're talking about. That's not what is happening. You are fighting ghosts. The man who said that is not in the room. Shout out to Ayush Gupta. Welcome to the party. Said, yes, it's not what he said. But we must recognize it's their fault. Their defenses failed. This is a country with one of the highest securities at all corners. And that's, yeah, you might want to say it's Israel. You could be in that position and say it's all on Israel. October 7th is all on Israel. You could make that argument. That's just not the argument that's being made. That's just not the argument that's being made. The fact of the matter is, if somebody gets in your house and kills you, your defenses have failed. You dropped the ball in defending yourself. I don't know how you can disagree with that or act like that's a moral judgment. Matthew King, Israel 100% dropped the ball. If they didn't, then October 7th would have been thwarted. That says the attack should not have been nearly as successful as it was. Bingo. Why is this blaming Israel for what they did? It's just acknowledging that if the bad people did the bad stuff and they were better at defending, then the bad people wouldn't have been as bad. That's it. And you're trying to smuggle in an argument that was not made. That is called a straw man. It's really easy to knock it down because it's made out of straw.
Would be enhanced if they stopped doing this. But the other thing, which you brought up to Coleman Hughes, was that you mentioned to him, which you said
those mamas. Whew.
What about didn't Israel like prop up Hamas? Wasn't that part of their strategy for a while?
If a woman is RP'd and I say you really dropped the ball in your defense, most people would take that as implication of fault. That is not the same thing. So are we talking about a situation? So okay, if we want, let's take that situation. Let's say, because we're not talking about a violent, brutal RPA, because that doesn't have the defense aspect there. There is no defense. Like if a man goes to a woman and wants to do that, there is no defense. So that's not dropping the ball on having defense. That's just something you can't do. So let's say if we take that out of it, and we're talking about an RPA where they're hooking up and she doesn't really feel comfortable, but she doesn't say anything, and he's being a little bit pushy because he's feeling it, and whatever, and she doesn't really want to, but she goes away with. Then guess what? She did drop the ball on her defenses, but it is still the dude who's at fault. Both things can be true at the same time. If you didn't want to do it, you shouldn't have done it. Your defenses of saying, I don't want to do this, failed. You dropped the ball on setting and keeping to your own boundaries. That does not mean it's your fault. That is why this is a straw man. You are wrong. Okay, and what is the analogous part of the gun here? Go ahead. You think you're doing a thing. I'm going to wait. You go ahead. Is she okay? Fine. She has a gun. And then what? It's an unreasonable question to ask, well, why didn't you shoot him? That's an unreasonable question. He was RPing you. Why didn't you shoot him? Does that mean it's her fault? No. No, Carl. No. But if she had a gun and she didn't use it, that would be dropping the ball on her defenses, wouldn't it? I'm glad we all agree.
Didn't Israel like prop up Hamas? Wasn't that part of their strategy for a while?
Bingo. Secret Service dropped the ball too, but that doesn't mean it was their fault. I mean, we can get into this specifics of whether that actually really happened and whether Crooks is one of them, but that's besides the point. Assuming the official story is correct, exactly. The Secret Service dropped the ball, but it was still Crooks who took the shot. You're making him hungry. Look how hungry he is. This is his second Hunger Dance. We're not even at the 2-hour mark. God damn. God damn. All right. I'm hoping more. I'm doing my best here.
Didn't Israel like prop up Hamas? Wasn't that part of their strategy for a while? And I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, and maybe he just doesn't know about that detail of this as much.
Okay. Why? Let's do it. Let's go. Do it. Why do you think, why would you be shocked? What would shock you about it? What has he said? Because I do not miss a part of the problem episode. Do you? I never miss an episode. So over the last, I don't know, since COVID started, I've heard every word that he's put out, at least on his own platform and many other platforms as well. So what is it that he said that would shock you that he would have a nuanced perspective, specifically on October 7th? That it was Israel's fault. Oh, nothing. BBL need to do tech support. What? Shout out to James Q Dabble. Welcome to the party. So the government is being ravaged. Well, not yet, but hopefully in another couple months, if we get Vivek in there with Trump, it will be. Welcome to the party, sir.
Because if not, he was kind of being dishonest. But maybe he just wasn't familiar with all of this stuff. But he kind of went, you said that, and then he kind of dismissed it by saying, well, there's a quote that's attributed to Netanyahu, but it wasn't on videotape.
Wait, who are we talking about?
Boss, wasn't that you said to Coleman Hughes was that maybe he just doesn't know about that detail of this as much, because if not, he was kind of being dishonest. But maybe he just wasn't familiar with all of this stuff. But he kind of went, you said that, and then he kind of dismissed it by saying, well, there's a quote that's attributed to Netanyahu, but it wasn't on videotape. So like we don't really know if Netanyahu said this or not, and then just kind of moved on to the conversation away from that. But I found this in all of my debates that I've done on this, and I've done like 8 debates on this since the war broke out. Everybody,
I've watched 6 of those. Carl, how many have you seen?
Everybody on the pro-Israeli side does not want to grapple with that point, because it really is like it's a narrative shattering point once you acknowledge it. But if it isn't on videotape, he has a point as well.
Oh.
So here's the deal, right? So the quote that he's referring to was a quote by Benjamin Netanyahu. It was something along the lines of, anybody who wants to thwart the Palestinians having their own state needs to support propping up Hamas, bolstering Hamas, transferring money to them to maintain, right? So there was a quote like this.
So Hamas maintains power.
Right. So Hamas maintains power so that
Guys, really quick, we are hitting up on the 2-hour mark, and if you would like to keep the party raging, you know how to do it. Morty has been very, very hungry. Zippy and Grant have been the only ones to contribute. And let me update that banner. But he's hungry, guys. And I may or may not have forgotten to order some of his food, and he may or may not be eating some other stuff too. So help a brother out.
Right. So there was a quote like this.
So Hamas maintains power.
Right. So Hamas maintains power so that we never have to give them a state, because we can look to the international community, we can look to liberal Jews in Israel and say, look, we have no partner for peace. They're a crazy terrorist group. So we never have to make a deal. We don't have to fulfill our promise.
And
that we would
how
give
was this attributed to him?
So basically, this quote particularly. Okay.
Dude, we just went over this and you said fair enough. I just explained this entire thing to you about how he's not blaming Israel. And you said fair enough. And you said, I think it's his fault. And I asked you, what is it that he said? And you just go back to the initial thing. Well, I don't know. I just NPC brain, go back to the beginning. Stupid. Come on, man. What are you doing? So in case you forgot, this is what you said just a few seconds ago. You said, in response to me saying that just because somebody dropped their defenses and dropped the ball on their defenses doesn't mean that what happened to them is their fault. We agreed, and you said, fair enough. But even though you make a very valid point, I'm still not going to take that logic, and I'm just going to double down on my initial claim. Then, okay, fine. Maybe that particular point is we can agree on that, but your bottom line of Carl or excuse me for Dave blaming Israel, maybe that's changed. But again, I will ask you, what is it that he has said that makes you think that he is blaming Israel outside of all of the things that we just talked about with dropping defenses versus blame? Hey, shout out to King Nirvana. No question, no comment, just pure love of the game. And of course, a treat for hungry hippo over here. Thank you so very, very much. And of course, that makes you the new co-sponsor of the stream. Very, very, very much appreciated. All right. Thank you.
How was this attributed to him?
So basically, this quote particularly, okay, this was at a closed door meeting with the Likud party. So this is Benjamin Netanyahu's political party, his far right party that's in power right now in Israel. Yes, so it's true that this was a closed door meeting and that it's not on tape. So what happened is, as far as I could tell, the first person who reported this, I believe, was a lady who's a reporter for the Jerusalem Post. And then it's been run in a bunch of other newspapers since then. So what happened is an eyewitness who was there. Shout out again to King Nirvana and all of our sponsors. Thank you so very, very much. I do appreciate you guys. Their border did fail. Their border security did fail. Netanyahu did fund Hamas. That doesn't change anything about the framework that I just gave you. When you tried to give an analogy of a girl getting R-paid, and we agreed that you were wrong, that was not analogous, or rather it was analogous and proved that you were wrong. And now you're just going back to saying all of these things when we've already addressed this. You have lost your ability to stop the show because you are not saying things that are smart. Punchcast said Dave trying to attribute hearsay about BB quote is strange. If it's not on record, then it can't be used, right? Well, that's what he's saying. So that Coleman Hughes was the one who was talking about the quote. So now Dave and Joe are litigating, the veracity of the quote. But initially, Dave was saying, he was bringing up issues that he had with, he had an issue with what Gad Saad said, an issue with Daryl somebody said, and so now Coleman Hughes said something about this this BB quote, but there was no video. So that's exactly what they're talking about. As far as I could tell, the first person who reported this, I believe, was a lady who's a reporter for the Jerusalem Post. And then it's been run in a bunch of other newspapers since then. So what happened is an eyewitness who was there at the meeting. So another Likud party member in Benjamin Netanyahu. No, actually. So Carl would say that because we say that if he could have moved, he should have moved, that it's not the man driving his car who's at fault. That's Carl's position. That if we were to say, if you could have moved, you should have moved. That's the situation.
I was like, what did I just do? The context? What did I just do? But I got it. Okay. See, this is how fast my thoughts in and out, in and out. All right.
Is an eyewitness who was there at the meeting. So another Likud party member in Benjamin Netanyahu's political party came and told her that he said this. And then she went and checked with somebody else who was there. And he also confirmed that, like, yes, Benjamin Netanyahu said this. And then a third person who was also at the meeting came out and wrote about it in his book, or wrote about it in another newspaper article or something like that. So you had 3 eyewitnesses from within his own political party who confirmed that he said this. Now,
so that's where he's at. He's like, okay, this is not on video, this is not recorded, but we have 3 different eyewitnesses, and so that's what we're working with. Not saying, well, therefore it's good, or therefore that. Just laying out that's what it is. That's the situation that we're dealing with.
Take that for what it's worth. I think that's reasonable.
There you go. Take it for what it's worth.
Reasonably strong that 3 eyewitnesses, all in his political party, said.
As long as they weren't trying to get rid of him, because you can get more than 3 people to say that Donald Trump was in collusion with Russia.
Sure. So even say if you don't trust them,
right?
Coleman acted as if that's what the entire case is built off of, which is just not true at all.
Right.
It's not just this.
Right. So the Coleman guy was the one saying that, and I'm just parroting. I didn't see that episode, but Dave did do an episode of Part of the Problem on some of the things that Coleman Hughes said when he was on Rogan. So I'm vaguely familiar with some of the clips, but yeah, that makes a little more sense.
If that's what the entire case is built off of, which is just not true at all. It's not just this one Benjamin Netanyahu quote. It's dozens and dozens of quotes from Israeli leaders all throughout the political spectrum. There's been reporting on this done by almost every major Israeli newspaper. Haaretz, Times of Israel. The Times of Israel on October 8th had a piece.
Put a 1 in the chat if you think this is a steel man of anything that I've said, and put a 2 in the chat if you think this is an obvious straw man for somebody who's mad that they were wrong.
Piece by Tal Schneider, which was how how Netanyahu's support for Hamas just blew up in his face. It was the next day, and because even critics like Ehud Barak, who was the former prime minister, he's a Labor Party. He's a critic of Benjamin Netanyahu. So he was a critic of this plan to prop up Hamas. But it's totally uncontroversial that this was their plan. The New York Times just ran a piece, I think it was late last year, it might have been early this year, where they talked about how 2 weeks before October 7th, Benjamin Netanyahu sent the head of the Mossad to Qatar because funds going into Hamas had slowed down.
Yeah, so King's right. That is not at all my position. And I mean, actually, if you want to take this one, yeah, I agree. Yeah, you should not be walking down dark alleys if you are a woman who does not have any type of protection. Does that mean that it's her fault? No, stupid. For the 3rd time. Again, you have lost your ability to stop the show.
And he sent them in there to make sure the funds continued. It's the case for this is overwhelming. It's not like relying on one.
Actually, I take that back. I take that back. Because I know for a fact that Carl's not dumb. Carl is very, very intelligent. The problem is that he has a dogmatic perspective on this, and therefore he is not listening to other arguments. And when he's getting proven wrong, like dogmatic people typically do, they dig their heels in further. Sad to see, but again, dogma and intelligence are not related. They are not related. Some of the smartest people you know are stuck in dogma. People that are way smarter than me. And, you know, I might argue that Carl is one of them. I think Carl is pretty goddamn smart, which is why it's so sad to see what dogma can do.
The case for this is overwhelming. It's not like relying on one. Yeah, here you go.
Yeah, for years, the Qatari government had been, am I saying that right? Is that how you say it?
Qatari, I think is.
Yeah,
is
Qatari
correct.
government had been sending millions of dollars a month to the Gaza Strip, money that helped prop up the Hamas.
No. So again, the question was. So let me start it since you're going to keep talking and not answering. So the question was, what did he say that would make you think that he doesn't think October 7th is Israel's fault? Outside of the things that we've already addressed in this stream. I can read. Can you? Can you answer a question? Apparently not.
Hamas government there. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel not only tolerated those payments, he had encouraged them. According to Times, Israeli intelligence agency agents traveled to Gaza with a Qatari official carrying suitcases filled with cash. Yep. Suitcases, like a mafia movie, to disperse money. Retired Israeli General Shlomo Braun described the logic of Netanyahu's position. One effective way to present a two-state solution is to divide. Prevent a two-state solution is to divide between the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. If the extremist Hamas ruled Gaza, then the Palestinian Authority, a compromise, comprador government, is that how you say it? Comprador? I don't even know what that is. Comprador government with a tenuous hold on the West Bank would be further weakened. This, according to Braun, would allow Netanyahu to say, I have no...
God damn, guys. We only got like half the likes in here. If you have not already, please do me a huge favor and hit that like button. It helps out so very much.
Partner. And so that's okay. So that's essentially the point there, right?
So that's a strategy.
He can say, I have no partner for peace, which is the Israeli line that they like to use. So basically, okay, in 1979, the Egyptians and the Israelis met at Camp David, and that's when they worked out their peace. Now, their peace also just involved basically that the U.S. would pay them both off. We'd give them both $3 billion a year in perpetuity if they stopped going to war with each other, basically. And part of that was that Israel promised that they would eventually give the Palestinians a state. Like, it was recognized by D.C. at the time. This is Jimmy Carter.
Yeah, King said, I could see people getting Dave all wrong a little more if he was cocky or acted like he knew everything. Maybe I'm crazy, but I think he's too modest. So I really don't get why people want to take him the wrong way. It's not about Dave. It's not about Dave. It's the issue. They have to see the Jews as bad. Therefore, anybody who makes an argument that puts that or either the Jews are bad or the Jews are perfect and could do no wrong. So anything that you say that has nuance, where it's like, maybe there's no good guy here. Maybe they're both shitty fucking organizations. Then it's like, they're worse. Like, not disagreeing. It just said that they're both bad. Well, Israel did this, and they're our friends. Or they're so impressed, and This is the same thing as any other issue. It's just the different type of framing of what they think. And thank you, brother. I love your honesty. I appreciate it. Oh my goodness! Shout out to Dietrich. First super chat on a live stream. Oh my goodness! And it goes to me. Thank you. I know it's for Morty. Said it's Morty's fault. He gets a treat. I only paid. Brilliant. Love it. And of course, that makes you another co-sponsor of the stream. Let's keep the party raging. So, guys, we don't need these big $10, $20, $50 things. It adds up. Thank you.
Give the Palestinians a state. Like, it was recognized by D.C. at the time, this is Jimmy Carter, that, like, you got to give them a state because otherwise this fighting is going to continue on and on and on forever. So they promised that eventually they would give it to them.
This is the Yasser Arafat days.
This is before Yasser Arafat was like the guy. But he was alive. But then in the 80s, Yasser Arafat basically rejected terrorism. He had been involved in terrorism before that. He rejected terrorism and he recognized Israel. I think it was in 1988. He recognized Israel's right to exist under 1967 borders. So basically, Israel has the right to exist, but we have the right to Gaza and the West Bank. The ultimate of compromises from the Palestinian perspective, because, a lot of their more hardcore guys are like, no, all of this was ours.
Right.
We shouldn't have lost any of it. And now even the original U.S. partition plan, which was rejected by the Arabs for fairly good reasons, they rejected it because it gave 55% to the Jews and only 56% to the Jews and only 44% to the Palestinians. And they were like, but we're like 90% of the population here, like, or 90% of the landowners here, or whatever. And it's like, this isn't fair. But now at this point, they're talking about 78% versus 22%. So they're accepting 22%. And so that's Yasser Arafat in the late 80s. And then this is what set the stage for the Oslo Accords in the early 90s. And this is like famously when Bill Clinton has Yitzhak Rabin and Yasser Arafat over, and they shake hands and they sign these deals. And the promise again from Israel was that we're starting the peace process to eventually give the Palestinians their state. This is the process. And there was
eventually. Shout out to James, said there wasn't a Jesus. He's a persistent plagiarism of my dress. I don't even know who that is, but it makes sense. I've heard many different iterations of, Messiah, born to a virgin, all that, going down the list. Go down the list. Plagiarism is rampant in mythology, aka mythology and what is currently considered religion. It's all mythology.
To eventually give the Palestinians their state. This is the process. And there were steps along this process. Okay. Now, in 1996, Benjamin Netanyahu becomes prime minister. Now, the same year in 1996, there's this letter. You can find this on the internet. It's called A Clean Break, a New Strategy for Securing the Realm. And it was written by Richard Pearl and David Wormser and a couple other people. Of course, Richard Pearl and David Wormser both went on to be very influential neoconservatives in the George W. Bush administration. So they write this letter, not to President Bill Clinton and not to Bob Dole, who was running for president on the Republican ticket that year. They write this letter to Benjamin Netanyahu, the new prime minister of Israel. And basically, if you read it, what they say is that they're like, look, you guys are all caught up in this peace process thing where you're talking about giving the Palestinians land. Stupid. We need a clean break from that strategy. And we're going to have a whole new strategy. And what it's going to involve is you making agreements with the broader Arab world so that you don't have to make this agreement with the Palestinians. You see, the old way of thinking was always that Israel will never be able to make peace with the broader Muslim world because they're furious about what you're doing to the Palestinians. But the clean break strategy was like, no, you're going to embark on what ultimately became the Netanyahu doctrine that will make it deals with the rest of the Arab world. So we don't have to give up this land. And you know what they recommended?
Yeah, guys, I didn't even think about that. $3 makes you the sole sponsor.
These two neoconservatives in 1996, and I bet you'll never guess this, Joe, regime change in Iraq for the security of Israel. That was in 1996. And these people got in George W. Bush's government. And after 9/11, those same people decided that they believed that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction and that he was involved in 9/11.
Yeah, almost like they do it on purpose. Yeah, teacher said, I never understood plagiarism. If I'm going to look dumb, I'll do it on my own terms. So I think it's crazy to get upset about someone critiquing the Jews or Israel when nobody is ever allowed to challenge them at all. Everyone gets critiqued, not everyone, less the Jews or Israel. Yeah, I mean, I don't like the what I perceive as anti-Semitism. I don't like you. I mean, I'll call you out. I think there's some statements that you make that I think are more generalized than they should be, but. That's no. I don't think you're anti-Semitic. I think that, but the sentiment of generalizing Israel and or not conflating Israel and Zionism and the Jewish faith, I think that gets messy, and I don't think that. And again, now I'm not talking about in general. There are people who take it way too far and take it as an excuse. They've always had this, again, dogmatic hate for a specific group. And that goes too far. And now, then when there is people like Am who has a legitimate, or Dave has legitimate grievances with what Israel does, then, you're being anti-Semitic. You think it's the Jews' fault? You think it's Israel's fault? And when we say no, it's like, yes, you do. Like, okay, dude. Okay. All right. So again, initially, let's shut up. Plungecast. Thank you for the New Zealand 5. I don't know how much it is, but I love it anyway. And so does Morty. Thank you so much. I gotta do some math now. Hold on. We gotta say, do we have a new sponsor or no? That's not what I wanted to do. 318. We got a new sponsor of the stream, the Plungecast. Thank you so very much. Yes, I just looked it up. It is 318 USD, and $3 was the well, technically $2 was the limit. Or not the limit, definitely not the limit, but you know what I mean. That makes you the new sponsor of the stream. We're gonna keep Garrett in there because the memberships really do mean a lot. But I got, and they're about the same price. But thank you, Plungecast. Boom. And we'll put 318, baby. Hell yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Let's keep this party raging. Did I miss anything? Yeah. Oh yeah, Carl's gonna answer the question. So originally, what he had said was that we were talking about blame. That Dave Smith was blaming Israel, and we said no. He's not blaming Israel. He's just stating the fact that their defenses failed. And he said, fair enough. But I would be shocked to see if he doesn't think it's Israel's fault, even though we just had that conversation and said fair enough to the fact that he's not saying it's Israel's fault. Carl says, my best answer to your question is Joe asked Dave about October 7th, and he spent the last 30 minutes listing critique after critique of Israel. He doesn't have to explicitly say it. It's obvious. And for the record, I don't give two craps about Israel or Palestine. Well, you could have fooled me. And I mean, I think if you, again, the context of the entire portion that we've been watching is, hey, here are some things that other people have said on your show that I don't think are accurate. That's it. You're the one injecting this emotional moralizing on Dave's behalf. And so if you don't care, then I don't understand. I don't understand why you're digging your heels in about this. You got me, Carl, because that is not an answer to my question. Again, the question is, what has he said outside of this stream? Outside of this stream, my stream. It could be something else he said in the Joe Rogan thing. But what has he said outside of what we've already addressed on this stream that would make you think, that would make you shocked that he doesn't think that October 7th was Israel's fault? Because again, we've already addressed the things that he said here, and we've already agreed that that does not go to him thinking that it was Israel's fault. So you fail. Oh my goodness. The big $20 super chat. Sorry, everybody. We only got one sponsor on this stream. At least for now. We're going to double up on that. There we go. Thank you so very, very much. Knocking everybody out and said, nope, I'm the sponsor now. Look at me. I am the captain now. Thank you so very, very much, sir. Let's dive right back in for such an amazing.
That he was involved in 9/11. Yeah.
So there it is. Israel can shape its strategic environment in cooperation with Turkey and Jordan by weakening, containing, and even rolling back Syria. This effort can focus on removing Saddam Hussein from power in Iraq, an important Israeli strategic objective in its own right, as a means of foiling Syria's regional ambitions. And here's where it gets crazy.
So you think that because he likes Scott Horton and he has not said anything directly, but you don't like Scott Horton because he thinks this way, that he has to think this way. So why is your issue not with Scott Horton? I have. And I don't necessarily agree with a lot of it. But guess what? As much as he talks about Scott Horton, as much as he has Scott Horton on the show, they disagree a lot. Did you listen to the last one? No, I'm sorry, bro. I just you need to sit this one out. You need time out.
Ambitions. And here's where it gets crazy. How much of what a great job the Mossad did in compromising people. by the way. I mean, how much of an effect did that have in everything? You know, you can go full Eddie Bravo and think everything that's happening is because of Epstein's Island. And
true. And to that point, Amb says every people has different types within. I generalize because nuances are mainly assessed on an individual basis, but generalizing because it's Jewish leadership. So I okay. The fact is, I personally think that there's a lot more of when you say Jews that you're talking about Israel, and maybe I'm wrong. And there when you say Jews, you are specifically talking about something different than the Israeli government or the IDF. But that's how it sounds. Yep, I only need a timeout if I lost. Oh no, I lost. Oh no! No! Carl beat me. How will I live? How will I live? And timeout.
I used to dismiss that a lot more easy than I do now.
Maybe not everything.
A lot,
but certainly some.
I said shit. Me too. Dilly damn. No, but she's right in a lot of places. And again, I don't necessarily have I don't even necessarily have as much knowledge as I think she does. But I'm saying me. I don't know what that means. Well, you got one supporter.
I do now.
Maybe not everything.
A lot,
but certainly some
things.
Well, look, you will see this. You will see this, and I'm not saying that Epstein is the sole reason for this type of stuff. There's several different reasons, but you see this all over the political sphere, and especially amongst like conservative commentators, where as soon as Israel's mentioned, whatever their principles were that they were just rolling with are like gone.
Yeah.
Like,
yep.
It's a totally different thing. And I get that. I get there's a reason for that too. Of course, like what Jewish people have been.
It was a joke, James, because we're all making fun of how bad Carl is doing this, and then you're saying that he's making a lot of sense. So that was the joke, that you're sticking up for him. And so the joke was, hey, you've got a supporter. Jeez, I don't know where I was. Everybody left their brain at home today.
In through in the 20th century, in the 19th and 18th century, like that play.
There you go. You got another fan, Carl. Oh my God, Punchcaster. I'm not a supporter. Or do you understand that I'm just making a joke to what? Okay, I'm moving on.
In through in the 20th century, in the 19th and 18th century, like that plays a part in that too. But there's no question that like it's not just Epstein. It's also and I highly recommend people read John Mearsheimer has a great book called The Israeli Lobby. There's also this lobby AIPAC, which is a very, very powerful lobby. The truth is that every US president, since with perhaps the exception of Trump, I'm actually not sure about that, but every US president since Jimmy Carter, I know for sure, excluding Trump, every one of them wanted a two-state solution. Every single one of them. None of them were able to get it done. Even
Yep. And even as Candace has been getting a little bit more, let's say wild. Let's even as she has gotten a bit more wild than outside of the Israel stuff. Like, she's been hitting on some shit that Daily Wire does not want to touch. Didn't I say is direct quote of Carl? Okay, well, how the fuck am I supposed to know that? You think I remember what fucking Carl said 10 minutes ago? Come on, man. You guys are hearing my voice. I'm just reading text. I mean, come on. I'm just a guy. I can't remember the entire chat.
The two-state solution. Every single one of them. None of them were able to get it done. Even though we bankroll Israel.
So I guess you don't have a supporter.
You'd think it'd be fairly easy for us to like put pressure on the country that's relying on us. Like, okay, we'll keep supporting you, but you got to do this. Nope. even when they go over and say, we want to do this.
Yeah, Punchcast said the Islamists don't want Israel to exist. So no two-state ever. Correct, sir. As much as the Jews don't want the specific groups of people that are fighting them there want to exist. They don't, not that they want them to stop harming them. They don't want them to exist. That's the problem with this particular conflict. That there is no middle ground. It's a zero-sum game. And I don't know why it makes sense for any of us as Americans to have any opinion on essentially two groups of savages trying to rip each other apart for the sake of ripping each other apart, outside of the fact that we're funding a lot of it. They're not savages because of their religion. They're savages because they want to kill each other, and they just want to kill each other.
They're not able to do that. And part of that is because of the lobby.
I mean, the religion is stupid, but
part of that is because there's like tens of millions of evangelical Christians in this country who believe that the Jews have to control Israel, like in some religious view that Jesus can't come back unless the Jews control him or something like that.
Oh, Christianity harming America yet again.
I don't exactly understand it.
They go there on tour. They have tours to go there.
Well, and they also, and the Israeli government's well aware of that, and they're well aware of how much they benefit from that. So they do everything they can to facilitate that belief.
White dudes with golf shirts.
Yeah, that's right. They're a big force. They're a really big block in this country. There's not like a few dozen of them. Like they're willing to throw some
real money.
Yes,
at bringing Jesus back.
Yes, they're very. That's a very big deal to them. But look, like there's all of these U.S. presidents. They've wanted an outcome that they're unable to get. And you can look, there's this one video of Benjamin Netanyahu where he doesn't know he's being recorded. And he's speaking openly about this. And it's so he openly starts bragging about how he basically blew up the peace process and how he basically.
There's a recording of this?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it's in Hebrew, but it's translated and it's legit. It's been translated by like a whole bunch of different people. And he's bragging about how he put all of these poison pills into the peace agreement. Like he was like, oh yeah, sure. We'll grant, I agreed to grant them a state, but only after it was determined that we could Israel could control military, important military areas. And then he was like, I also snuck it in that only Israel gets to define what the military important areas are. And I decided that a third of the West Bank is that. And he's bragging about how he tricked Bill Clinton and how easy it is to move the Americans. It's wild.
And so it's stuff like that where I can say fuck Netanyahu. I can say fuck Netanyahu. That has nothing to do with the faith, the Jewish faith. That has nothing to do with people who practice none of it. So if somebody who likes to generalize as the Jews can explain to me why it's not specifically Bibi Netanyahu and the IDF, and it's the Jewish faith, that I don't understand. I do not understand that. Yeah. I see it. I see it, brother. We watching it. And I didn't want to interrupt it because he's on point. Unless he's not, in which case, feel free to educate me. But whenever I ask, where is he wrong or what did he say? Silence. Punchcast said, as we have seen in Europe and UK, what happens when Islamists have a stronghold, they turn on their neighbors. Bingo. So the only thing to fear is the Islamist. I'm going to agree slightly because there could theoretically be a dogma that is even worse than Islam. The only thing to fear is the worst dogma in existence. Whatever that happens to be. Right now, it does seem to be Islam. But if you think that it doesn't get worse than Islam, oh, honey, look at what the Mayans did.
There's a lot of power plays at work here. And the only other thing I'll say about this, and it's not just like the neoconservative, the clean break, the strategy that they wrote for Netanyahu. It's that, so in 2002, Benjamin Netanyahu comes and testifies before Congress as a regional expert. And he testifies that like, oh yeah, no, if you guys overthrow Saddam Hussein, democracy will sweep the region. Let me tell you, I know something because I know this region better than anyone else.
Is he lying? I mean, I don't have a specific knowledge of this. If anybody knows that he's lying about this, please, or if he's wrong about this, please let me know, because this is pretty big stuff.
Bert. And he testifies that like, oh yeah, no, if you guys overthrow Saddam Hussein, democracy will sweep the region. Let me tell you, I know something because I know this region better than anyone else. And at one point, Dennis Kucinich actually grilled him and got him on record. And he goes, is there anybody else that you're advocating that we preemptively attack? And Netanyahu goes, yeah, Iran. Attack them too. So I'm not like, I don't hate Israel. Like, I think Israel's a cool country. I think what they do to the Palestinians is fucked up and it's inexcusable and they should stop. But I think Israel is a cool country. There's a lot of great things about them.
Hey, shout out to Michael W. Welcome to the party. Good to see you. Good to see you. It's going pretty well. Going pretty well. James says, a dogma worse than Islam? But Islam is the religion of peace. Forced peace. You will be, it's almost like you will own nothing and you'll be happy. We're going to force you to be happy. We're going to force you to be peaceful. You got it. Yeah, there you go. Exactly. You shall own nothing and love it. I mean, pick one.
Excusable and they should stop. But I think Israel is a cool country. There's a lot of great things about them. But like Netanyahu, this guy who's the longest serving prime minister in Israeli history, has been trying to get America into wars that are in his interest, that are very clearly not in ours. And the fact that we have to like unconditionally support Israel, even when our own democratically elected president doesn't like the policies that they're enacting, and yet they still get all of this support, even now.
Make it make sense. Make it make sense. Oh yeah, you better believe it. You better believe it, because whatever we allow to exist will exist. Whatever we allow to exist will exist. And thank you. I'm glad you pointed this out. Good shout out to you. He is saying his position, so now you'll know. So let's back it up a little bit, so you can see exactly what he says about Israel, and whether it was their fault, or if they're the bad guys, or any of that stupid shit, or if he's just stating facts in a very nuanced geopolitical conflict.
Interest, trying to get this guy who's the longest serving prime minister in Israeli history, has been trying to get America into wars that are in his interest, that are very clearly not in ours. And the fact that we have to like unconditionally support Israel, even when our own democratically elected president doesn't like the policies that they're enacting, and yet they still get all of this support. Even now, as you know, Joe Biden doesn't know what he's saying because he's got dementia, but there's people in his ear who are telling him to like say, don't invade Rafah. And he's like, don't invade Rafah. And then Benjamin Netanyahu's like, okay, we're going to invade Rafah. And it's just like, okay, well, fine. If we have no influence over what you're going to do, and you'll just wag the middle finger at us and brag about how you tricked Bill Clinton and defy what our presidents want you to do, like, okay, fine. But then you don't get our money and our weapons. Right? Like, isn't that reasonable?
It is reasonable, but it's all
sounds reasonable to me. So let's, as a king, so rightly pointed out, that was his position. Does that sound anything like the accusations that have been thrown at him? Didn't to me, but again, maybe I'm really stupid on this stuff. So again, it should be very easy to articulate why I am wrong, why King and I are wrong, that he is not saying the things that you've accused him of saying.
Also, the left is very confused on this one. This is a baffling one for the left.
What else is new?
Yeah, they sure are.
Support of Israel has always been a position of people on the left, right? Support of Jewish people. And to not want that is kind of anti-Semitic.
Well, look, on the hard left, there's always been a bunch of people who are sympathetic to the plight of the Palestinians, right?
Yes, there's the people that
like Hassan,
like seen Abby Martin's take on it.
But Abby Martin also like follows in a tradition of left-wing thought, like Noam Chomsky and people like this, who have always been very critical of the Israeli government's treatment of the Palestinians.
Yes, but this is where it gets weird. It's like the support of Israel when Israel was attacked. So that's when everything gets crazy. It's not support of Israel before October 7th. It's post October 7th. So now you have hardcore lefties who are now they're like the majority of the young people now. It's a big thing in this country. And universities, it's crazy. I mean, they're going nuts. They're attacking students. They're attacking teachers. People can't go to work.
Now remember, this interview's from May, so this was right in the heart of those encampments.
Being told if they support Israel, they can't be on campus.
Damn it!
It's just
put a 1 in the chat if I should open another drink. Put a 2 if I should just chill.
The whole thing.
My health and state of mind is in your guys' hands. 1 for more and 2 for no.
It's very bad for the left in that regard, because like Jewish people traditionally vote left.
Oh yeah, well yeah. I mean, the overwhelming majority, I think 85% of Jews are Democrats or something like that.
And obviously there's not full. Like even today, there was a news report of a huge government protest in Israel. They're in the streets, and so it's not
okay. Really important. Strawberry or watermelon?
Not like this is a policy that's supported.
Oh, that's the only way I know how.
Supported by the entire population.
Well, there was. So basically, I think what really changed things during the 90s, there's no question there was tremendous support for making a deal for a 2-state solution, particularly amongst like liberal Israelis. And they're basically, so Yitzhak Rabin got assassinated by a right-wing Israeli who was furious that he was a traitor for making a deal with the Palestinians. And that took him out. And then
yeah, it's crazy how much this stuff develops. And looking at the core arguments of a conflict that's been going for hundreds of years. It's like, well, I mean, strawberry it is. What was I saying? That yeah. So the podcast was saying that this was this week's. It feels so outdated now because it might even matter because yeah, just it's developing quickly. But the conflict itself is a very, very old thing. So changes within the last 6 months are kind of irrelevant to the macro scale, which is why I think that y'all didn't even fucking know until I said it, right? Am said, I generalize Jews because of historical context. People choose ignorance when trying to justify Israeli or Jew atrocities. I find issue with anyone trying to exempt themselves from critique. Okay. This sounds like it'll take a little bit more to explain, but I definitely want to hear about this in the after party. She said, that's so loaded. Are we talking about the actual fruit or the something that tastes like? Well, tastes like. But we already picked strawberry, so we're here. And you know what? Just an extra little, where are we? Extra little drip just for King. Boop. Y'all ready for this? Only a pro. Only a fucking pro. That's how you do it.
When Netanyahu came in, and then ultimately, I guess it was Sharon who was in the year 2000, and there was another meeting at Camp David where what people will say, which is just not true, but what a lot of the people, the pro-Israel.
Oh yeah, no. I'm not. I'm just like this. This seems like there's a lot more to it. Doesn't seem like this is something you could easily explain in text. So no, I understand where this is coming from, but it's very interesting, and I just want to hear more about it.
Israeli side will say is that they offered them everything.
Right.
They offered the Palestinians everything they wanted, and they just turned it down. And this is it's all slogans. It's like they never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity. But if you actually look into the details of all of it, even Shlomo Ben-Ami, who was the acting foreign minister at the time involved in these negotiations, he even said in his book, and he said it in a Democracy Now! Interview, that he would have turned down the deal too if he was.
And even like little things like being able to name this person in this year to this, and they said that, and connect it to other things at different years and different eras of things. Like, okay, maybe you have a substantial disagreements with the way that he perceives the conflict, or the way that he perceives particular instances, or whatever the case may be. But to act like he doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, you would not be able to sit for 3 hours and talk about this at all. You would not be able to do that. And like, I highly doubt that anybody here would be able to have a one-on-one conversation with him. And again, he's not the debate bro. So it's not like we're going into Andrew Wilson or Destiny. And you just have to have the better talking, the better, not talking points, the better debate tactics. Maybe you do have a better opinion on the conflict than he does. But you're not going to tell me that he doesn't know what he's talking about. You're not going to tell me that he's just ignorant. You're not going to tell me that he's just parroting other people. That's just not what it is. No, you didn't answer the question, though.
It was Arafat.
I messed up and I addressed you, but no, you have to answer the question.
Because the deal was just it was so removed from actually giving him his own state that it was like, it was an insulting offer, essentially. But when those negotiations...
Question again is why? Based on things that were not said in my stream.
Broke down, and then it was after Sharon had this visit to the Temple Mount, which really inflamed tensions. When the negotiations broke down, then the second Intifada started, and there was a big wave of terrorist attacks. And that, in the same cycle we were talking about at the beginning, that did a lot to turn a lot of liberal Israelis off of the idea that, like, well, there's no negotiating a peace. But it is worth noting that whenever there were negotiations going on, the support for terrorism, the support for Hamas and groups like that always plummeted. And
this is like a whole thing. Andrew is the right wing, Andrew is a base Destiny. Changed my mind.
And then whenever the negotiations broke down, the support for those terrorist groups picked back up again. Because the big problem here is that you're just, when you take away the dangling carrot in front of an oppressed people, like you let them know that there's no hope, that you're going to live in subjugation for eternity. That's a very dangerous situation. That's when people will turn to really, really dark means. And that's, essentially, look, Netanyahu's, like, what became the Netanyahu doctrine, and a lot of this culminated in the Abraham Accords, which a lot of Trump supporters will brag about. They'll be like, look at all these peace deals that Donald Trump worked out in the Middle East, except the problem is that there was no war between any of the countries that he worked out these deals. It was just kind of like normalizing relations between Israel and these other Arab countries around them.
Okay, but that seems like a good thing, no?
But what was the reason why relations weren't normalized?
Yeah, any film said, Andrew rubs me the wrong way, and his wife has refused to rub me at all. I think I think it's not every Christian that you come across that uses the fact that they once were not a Christian and now they're a Christian solely to be like, I'm better than you. And Andrew really does that. So he definitely rubs me the wrong way. And yeah, well, she ain't rubbing me at all. So, and so I like him specifically when dealing with feminists. I don't watch him on anything else, really. Yeah, mainly when I see him is TikTok clips of the whatever podcast, where for whatever reason, that same trauma healer, psychologist woman always keeps going on and getting way too upset. Yeah, she's back in another outfit another day. I don't keep up with the whatever podcast, but they got their racket going. They must be paying her. I don't know. Anyway, shout out to I've been back in the
countries around them.
Yeah, why is that not a good thing? Sounds like, given what's going on in the Middle East right now, and we're on the edge of a potential World War III, that making things in the Middle East good would be a good thing. I'm not saying it's a problem that it fixes the Middle East. I'm just wondering why it's a bad thing.
Or between any of the countries that he worked out these deals. It was just kind of like normalizing relations between Israel and these other Arab countries around them. But what was the reason why relations weren't normalized? It was because they were pissed off about Israel's treatment of the Palestinians. So basically, Jared Kushner's brilliant idea, along with Netanyahu's, was that, oh, well, if we just bribe all of these countries with U.S. taxpayer dollars or weapons, we can get them to look the other way and say, screw the Palestinians. We'll make a deal with the US and with Israel. So they did that. And Netanyahu was bragging about this. And Netanyahu, just a couple weeks before September 11th, right around the time that he sent the head of Mossad into Qatar to make sure the money kept going to Hamas, he went to the UN with a map of greater Israel. And it was all Israel. Gaza, the West Bank, and what is Israel proper? All Israel in his map. Like they were just bragging to them like, haha, you guys lost.
I would too. I would too. If I had gotten over on the United States, then I would too. Indie said the Abraham Accords seem like a big step to normalize relations between Israel and countries that had previously gone toward them. Yeah, I mean, as much as I love Dave, and as much as I don't think that he has TDS, this is just a bad take, in my opinion.
Israel in his map. Like they were just bragging to them like, haha, you guys lost. You get nothing. That's it. Nothing.
This map of greater Israel, this is something that he's proposing for the future.
This is in, as much as people will point to the Hamas.
So the surrounding Arab countries don't care about the Palestinians. They have not opened their borders for Palestinian refugees or sent them aid. And that seems like kind of directly tied.
Founding charter, and it says from the river to the sea or whatever. And that's true, at least their original one. But that's in the Likud founding documents also. In different words, but it's basically from the river to the sea will be all Israel, which is what it has been, since 1967. And again, by the way, I'm not trying to make
with a
awkward silence there. All right.
What? Why would he have that sounds like a plot in a movie.
Sure does.
This is all of ours.
Well, I do.
No deals.
Yeah. Well, right. Something like that.
It does. It sounds like a bad guy in a movie.
Well, look, I also don't want to because there are people who also jump to like other conspiracy theories that I don't think are right. They'll say kind of like
what one?
Well, because Netanyahu was supporting Hamas and because he was using them kind of as, you know what I mean? Like, oh, good, we'll keep these terrorists over here so that they're not linked up with the people in the West Bank over here. And then I get a certificate. I forget the exact phrase, but
So Michael said, why does nobody want the Palestinians? Honest question. I do not know the answer to this question. If I had to guess based on my limited knowledge of the conflict, I would bet that I don't know. I mean, I would bet they would have to do with relation to Israel because they're so directly in conflict with Israel. Then anybody who is going to give aid to Palestine is then seen to be taking a side. I don't know. I do not know.
Over here, and then I get a certificate. I forget the exact phrase, but it was I think he said at one point, I have a no partner for peace.
Yeah, but that's all. I mean, that's Islam for you.
Certificate signed by the president and both houses of Congress. Because look, I don't have to ever do a 2-state deal. But then
it's not like Saudi Arabia has never seen a self-deletion bomber.
People will jump to the next level, which is that like, oh, he wants.
This is pure speculation, but it makes sense, right? I mean, it seems like it's like let's see how this goes. If y'all win, then like, all right, Islam take over, let's go. But if not, I'm not trying to be on the wrong side of NATO and the US. I don't know, maybe.
Then people will jump to the next level, which is that answer. Like, oh, he wanted October 7th. There was a stand down order. This is why it took Israel so long.
Yeah, it's a black flag.
And even said nobody wants them because they are insane ideologues, and you bring them into your country, and the next thing you know, you have a rebellion. Just ask Lebanon. But don't they have the same ideology? And I mean, not when I say the same, maybe the exact. I mean, like, they have like the Sunnis and Shiites and all this kind of stuff. But is it like their specific, like a Palestinian brand of Islam? Because if not, then they're all Islam. Well, I mean, okay, not Egypt, but like the rest of them, the rest of the Islamic countries around there. I don't know the significance of 1 question mark and then 3 question marks. What does that mean?
flag.
That or
Yeah.
the false flag.
False
yeah,
flag, right.
that I don't think is
cryptography.
right. But at least I haven't
English.
seen convincing evidence that it is. From everything I've read about it, it actually seems a lot more like, if you remember, I know we talked about this, I think, on the podcast years ago when I was on, but if you remember so in 2012, when Obama decided that they were going to start arming all of the anti-Assad rebels.
Mormons absolutely are Christians. Cry about it.
And there's actually a hot mic of John Kerry talking about this. And because they were doing it through 2013, 2014. And he goes, yeah, look, we saw the rise of ISIS coming. And we knew the weapons were getting into their hands. But we thought, okay, that might put pressure on Assad to have to step down. So like we could use this group in order to get the regime change that we wanted. But then
okay, so then it's not necessarily no. So I was saying you're right. Egypt specifically isn't a Muslim country, but I'm saying the other countries around them. So yes, Egypt is bordered with them, but again, now you're going down to Africa. If we look at that Eurasian spot where again, like Iraq and the stands and stuff like that. I'm not great with geography, but all the Muslim countries, according to any film, those factions don't get along with each other, and so it would be obviously yes, the Middle East. Egypt is part of the Middle East, even though it's in Africa. I'm saying outside of Egypt. I was saying the other countries are all Muslim, and Michael correctly pointed out that Egypt isn't Muslim. So yes, Michael, you are correct. So take Egypt out of there. But the other countries that are surrounding them that are Muslim. The question then would be, which Indie Film answered then, do they have a specific type of Islam that places like Iraq and whatever other countries are around them don't want to deal with? And make a sense to me.
Use this group in order to get the regime change that we wanted. But then they turned around and invaded Iraq. And like, that wasn't part of the plan. You know what I mean? Like, they weren't supposed to do that. Then we had to reinvade Iraq to get rid of ISIS, who, you know what I mean? And so there, if you remember, during that time, there was one point when Obama called ISIS JV.
The JV team.
It was like kind of like insulting them. Like, listen, these guys, and you.
He has a pattern, doesn't he, Obama, of insulting, punching down, as the libs would say, punching down, and then creating. I don't even know the word. He punched down on ISIS, and they became our biggest enemy. He punched down on Donald Trump at the White House correspondence. He'll never be in my seat, Donald. And he became the goddamn president. Insane. Islam is the religion. The people are Arabs. I believe that's accurate. Yeah, I think that's how you would say that. I don't know. Any film said not 100%, but I believe Jordan had brought Palestinian refugees in and had to kick them out. Like I said, I didn't know Egypt wasn't Muslim. I don't think. I mean, when I say they're not a Muslim country, I mean that the laws are not heavily influenced by the like Sharia law or the Muslim doctrines. It doesn't mean that there's not a heavy influence of Muslims in Egypt. Yeah. Am said, what's peculiar about this conflict is that Israel's defenses are supposed to be top-notch, yet they've leveled Gaza, knowing Hamas is underground. Seems like a demo to me, but I don't follow closely. And King is a smitten.
You could kind of see where Obama was coming from. He's like, I don't know, I'm the commander-in-chief of the United States of America's military. I'm worried about ISIS. These guys are nothing compared to what the power that we have. And there's a lot of people at the highest level of the Israeli government who spoke exactly the same way about Hamas. That's the Benjamin Netanyahu quote that he says, we can control the height of the flame, when he's talking about, the propping up Hamas. He goes, don't worry, we can control what they're able to do and what they're not able to do.
Can you? Clearly not.
Guys are nothing compared to our strength.
But
there was tremendous hubris in it.
Let's take a what if.
Sure.
What if they decided on a two-state solution as it currently stands, and they just let the people run it however they want, and Hamas takes over the Palestine, and Palestine becomes a country controlled by Hamas. And then they start doing trading with other countries. And then they start acquiring weapons, like real sophisticated weapons like Israel has, where the Iron Dome is no longer successful.
Right. So this is kind of the counterfactual that a lot of Israelis will rely on to say, well, look, we can't give them their own state because what if when they get their own state, they decide to do this with it? So, all right, there's an old Thomas Jefferson quote about slavery.
All right, guys, we are coming up on 3 hours. You know how to keep it raging.
And I'll butcher this, as I always do, but I like bringing it up. But it's something along the lines of, he goes, we have the wolf by the ear, and we can neither afford to hold on to it nor to safely let it go.
Whoa.
And essentially what he was saying was like, this was a major concern of people, even people who were kind of sympathetic to the abolitionist cause, who were like, yeah, look, but we've like enslaved these people for so long. And so what are we going to do? Free them and make them citizens who are allowed to get guns? Like, they're going to be so furious at us. They're going to come kill all of us. And you can kind of...
Yeah, maybe you shouldn't have enslaved them. I mean, of course, that's easy to say in hindsight.
See,
especially when there's way more of them.
Well,
especially you have a plantation, and how many slaves
right.
did you
in
have?
certain areas, you might have
people
had...
all get together and organize.
Yeah,
and get
so
guns.
you could see where that could have been a
You can see why
realistic
they have
concern.
A really good point too.
Right, but at the same time,
the dude who whipped you lives in that big White House, and now you've got a shotgun.
Yeah, so there's no question. There's a concern about that.
For how long? And like Joe said, there's a lot more of them than there were of you if you're a slave owner.
However, I also think looking back at it, most people in modern times would say, yeah, go. But you can't enslave people,
Guess
man.
what?
No, and we kicked Michael Blackman.
You fucked up. You shouldn't just
and Moon's not here.
Deserve that house in the first place.
And look, I also do think that
you better get the fuck out of Dodge.
Like the way Daryl Cooper says it, which I actually think is a reasonable way to put it, is he goes like, I heard someone ask him that question once, and he goes, okay, well, if that happened, then we're having a different conversation. You know, but that's not the conversation right now.
Exactly. I think it's really important to be able to determine when you are talking across, when you're having a conversation and you're talking across each other, and being able to determine, hey, what you're saying is not addressing the conversation that we're having. This is not what we're saying. Like that, again, that's an interesting conversation. I'm willing to have that conversation with you, but that's a different conversation than we're having. Hey, shout out to Carl. To have a drink on me and train Morty to watch out for Haitians. Dilly. Morty, come on, get your treat. Come here. You don't want it? You want this? Oh, well, I'm going to leave it here. Come on. You're paid entertainment, bitch. Yay! Thank you so very much. And despite our disagreement, the party rages on. Very much appreciated, sir.
The conversation right now is about Israel dominating these people in perpetuity. But I also do think that I think that groups like Hamas get their strength from the fact that there are so many people who want to resist this total domination by the Israelis. You know, it was General McChrystal. Is not a libertarian dove like me, not like some comic idiot like me who's just like, I'm against war. General McChrystal, who was running the war in Afghanistan before he got caught saying bad things about Obama and got kicked out of there.
The Rolling Stone story.
Yeah, the Rolling Stone story with
Michael Hastings,
the late great Michael Hastings.
Might have.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but
there's literally not enough Dave Smith content for that to become a thing. Just let you know. I'm just letting you know. And this, let's not start a thing. This was a one-time thing where you spam the chat and I go through. We are not gonna start a thing. We're just like, oh, cover this person. I knew that King Nirvana wanted to see some Dave Smith, so I wanted to hook my boy up.
But General McChrystal, this tough, hard-nosed general, he was the one who coined the term insurgent math. And he said, what's 10 minus 2? And a lot of you might think it's 8, but the answer is 20. When we're talking about insurgents, 10 minus 2 equals 20 because you kill 2 insurgents and Each one of them had brothers and uncles and nephews and friends, and now they all join up the resistance movement because they're all so radicalized by the fact that you just killed someone they loved. And this has been the nature of this dynamic from the beginning of it.
A cuck or one cuck?
And so, yeah, it's like just saying that to the concern that if Israel was to grant the Palestinians their freedom, that what if then this led to like some swelling in Hamas? I think the truth is that doing what you're doing now is.
Do you know? Like, this is the funniest thing about running a channel is that you guys have no fucking clue what it is that you want. Do you know how fast you would get bored of a Dave Smith Monday? Do you know it would be like 2? It would be like 2. Y'all have no idea. Y'all have no idea. That. Y'all have no idea. Y'all have no idea.
Swelling in Hamas. I think the truth is that doing what you're doing
you better than you know yourself
is much more likely to increase Hamas or Hamas-like organizations.
Right.
Because there's,
so they're basically, it's like credit card debt. It's like basically they keep using their credit card. They're never going to be able to pay off the debt. It just keeps rising and rising and rising, and your monthly payments keep.
Thank you, King. And I'm doing that today. But how much do you think I would actually be able to do that? Anyone said Maggie Smith Monday would be fucking awesome. Who the fuck is Maggie Smith?
Getting higher and higher, and you're fucked.
Yeah. But again, like I will say that the one nice example or the one silver lining to all of this is that there are so many examples throughout the world where things were so off. I mean, you just never could have imagined that like Germany could live right there in Europe next to all these countries. They just went to 2 world wars with each other. You know what I mean? But they do.
They travel by train to visit each other.
Yeah, that's right. And everyone's friends. Dude,
and what's the difference? What's the difference between the culture of England and the culture of Ireland versus the culture of these parties in the Middle East? That's why it ain't the same.
I went,
and I'm not saying that any of you are saying it's the same. I'm just highlighting
last year and did like stand up in I went to London, and then you get on like a 45-minute flight and you go over to Ireland, and you're just like, oh, you guys are right next to each other. Everyone's just coming out to the shows and we're having fun, and it's just cool. And like, so there is something beautiful about that where it in the moment it seems like this could never be solved, but like that's not necessarily true. The truth is that most human beings.
This is a suggestion. More trivias and topics of conspiracy. What do you mean by trivias? So, I mean, obviously, I get, the conspiracy, what conspiracies are going on. What do you mean by trivia? Because that could work into something. Because I mean, we got to figure out. I meant to put out the community tab post for Friday because we finished the Crash Course Philosophy playlist. I think. All right, King. Don't stay a king. Don't be a simp. The fact that we're over so let's do this. Well, since you guys are here, you guys are going to get a stronger opinion what to do for Philosophy Friday. Deep dive on an ideology. Not an ideology, a theory. What would you call? Yeah, an ideology. Okay, deep dive in ideology or more basic learning, like low level stuff. Let's see, because I think the Civil War one. I don't remember that at all. What the fuck? I don't know where oh, this one. Oh, okay. All right. Where this is what you're talking about. Where we had Tim Pool and this thing fight each other. That is correct. We are just doing a little bit of Civil War trivia. All right. Okay. Good to know. We will definitely do more of those. Word up. Good suggestion. Oh, I was only going to climb that, but I need that. No. There. Back. Okay. Oh yeah, I'm sure you. I of course, yeah. You. I knew you wouldn't. I knew you wouldn't. I knew you were better than that. Any films that have driven from the Republic of Ireland to Northern Ireland quite a few times. No checkpoint, just the flags change, and you go from kilometers to miles per hour. Which one uses miles? Okay, I'm trying to fucking help you, dude. I can only help you so much. I can only help you so much. Jesus fucking Christ.
That's not necessarily true. The truth is that most human beings are incentivized by wanting to live their life and wanting to take care of their family and wanting to, you know what I mean? Like, and if given an option to do that rather than losing their sons in war, a lot of times they'll choose that. But in order for that to happen, Israel has all of the power and the Palestinian people have virtually none. The only thing they have the power to do is to, I guess, support these.
Dilly. I mean, I'm come to the after party if you want to know all the things that I'm holding my tongue on.
Acts of terrorism, which are essentially like celebrating losing. It's so sick and dark that you're like, aha, we'll kill a few of your people and then get way more of our people killed. It's just like, that's the only thing they have. Aside from that, every peaceful effort that they make ends up being violently suppressed. And Israel has all of the power. And in order to get to that step, it's on the ones with the power have to make some concessions. And the only way to get there is for Israel to like at least get back on some path toward like, hey, we are going to give you like your sovereignty at some point.
There was some recent discussion of rebuilding Gaza where they were talking about what they could do for that area.
Oh, and okay, I was like, the UK definitely, okay, got it. But England and Northern Ireland uses miles per hour. Ireland uses kilos per hour. Second time I did the, excuse me. I did second time I did the rental car. I didn't have miles per hour, so I just had to be. You could, I mean, that's just funny because, like, obviously, modern cars have, you can just press a button and it'll go from miles to kilos. But I'm sure that was, wow. Oh, and it will not be ignored. I just cannot say it on YouTube. So join as a member. It's free to join the Discord, but it's not free to join the after party. Carl said, woke power dynamics, another libertarian fantasy. Intersectionality from a libertarian. Okay, I didn't hear that. So, okay, again, but you understand here, you're making a claim. I'm not being antagonistic. I just would like for claims that are made to be backed up. So we'll back this up a little bit and you tell me what you're seeing that I'm not seeing about wokeness.
And in order to get to that step, it's on the ones with the power have to make some concessions. And the only way to get there is for Israel to like at least get back on some path toward like, hey, we are going to give you like your sovereignty at some point.
There was some recent discussion of rebuilding Gaza where they were talking about what they could do for that area.
After they demolish it? And I better get some credit for that one.
Once they rebuild it. What's the plan on that?
Well, there's been a lot of different like things floated out. And of course, Israel is always kind of talking out of both sides of their mouth. So like on one moment, they'll be like, we just want Hamas. We just have to get Hamas out of there. And then they'll be like, well, we really do think that every country should take in a fair share of the Gazan people. Like they're floating out the idea of just cleansing the entire area. I know that the UN, I think recently said that it would take 80 years to rebuild Gaza. I don't know if that, I don't trust UN numbers exactly.
Rebuilding Gaza,
2 decades, they said?
$50 billion over 2 decades. Well, someone just got paid.
Well, right, exactly. So what's the
That's
real?
also a thing,
But
right?
nobody.
Rebuilding is
Yes.
very profitable.
Well, that's for sure. Yeah. Oh, there's money to be made in the destruction. There's money to be made in the rebuilding,
Money
and
to be
people will
made.
make that money. But I think that the truth is that Israel has not at all laid out what the end game of this is, other than this assertion that we must get rid of Hamas entirely, even though U.S. and Israeli intelligence have both said that that's impossible.
Oh, I'm getting it. All right. Dilly dilly. I'm getting it. There we go. I'm trying. I'm in these streets like Kamala. All right. I'm in these streets. I'm trying to deal with the ground level shit that your grandpa's getting mad at and on Facebook, and trying to bring those people into the fold in a more rational way. Maybe not your grandpa specifically, but people who think like it. Individual said, I'm super confused that the idea that Gaza didn't have sovereignty from 2006 till October 6th of last year. They did not vote Hamas in. That is the direct opposite of what I've heard. All right, time for our favorite. I should not have done that one. Hold on. Wait. Fuck it. Let's do this one. Okay, so did Palestinians vote Hamas into power? We'll just ask that. Oh, that's very far up. That's not what I want to do. Okay, so the question was, did Palestinians vote Hamas into power? Yes, Hamas was voted into power by Palestinians in the 2006 parliamentary elections. These elections were held in the West Bank and Gaza, and Hamas won a majority of seats in the Palestinian Legislative Council, defeating the Fatah party. This electoral victory led to increased tensions between Hamas and Fatah, eventually resulting in Hamas taking full control of Gaza in 2007. Since then, Hamas has governed the Gaza Strip. So should I challenge it and be like, no, I don't think that's correct, which is very common? But what do you? Let's double check. Is there any way you have this confused? The explanation is correct in terms of historical events, but it can clarify some of the nuances that might cause confusion. Okay. So in 2006 elections, Hamas did indeed win a majority of seats in the 2006 Palestinian Legislative Council elections. They received about 44% of the popular vote, but secured 74 out of 132 seats due to the electoral system. This gave them a parliamentary majority over Fatah, which won 45 seats. Governance split. After the elections, tensions escalated between Hamas and Fatah, leading to violent clashes. By 2007, Hamas forcibly took control of the Gaza Strip, while the Palestinian Authority, led by Fatah, retained control of the West Bank. 3. Hamas's governance in Gaza. Since 2007, there hasn't been a follow-up election in Gaza, meaning that while Hamas originally gained power through elections, its continued governance of Gaza is due more to its military and administrative control rather than ongoing democratic processes. 4. Voter intentions. It is also debated whether Palestinians voted for Hamas primarily because of its political platform or as a protest against corruption within Fatah. Am I saying that right? Many analysts believe the vote was less an endorsement of Hamas's militant stance and more a rejection of Fatah's governance. Okay, so since then, some the guy didn't have sovereignty until October, but they did vote them in. Like if you're saying once they were voted in, then they stopped elections. We wouldn't have needed ChatGPT for that. But that's not what you said. That's not what you said, homie. You said they did not vote Hamas in. And guess what? They voted Hamas in.
It's not an achievable.
They didn't vote in Hamas forever, but they did vote Hamas in.
Task. Hamas is popping back up in the areas that they've already leveled, and they could go into Rafah. I'm sure they can kill some Hamas militants in there, but Hamas or Hamas-like groups are coming back.
How many do you think they've killed so far?
No idea, and I don't think they know.
What are the numbers of Hamas that exist?
They've claimed that they've. I saw like at one point they said they've killed 8,000, then they said 10,000, then 14,000. I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea what the real number is, and I don't think the Israeli government knows, and I don't think I think probably the Gazan health ministry doesn't know either.
Oh, I apologize. I misread. You said did they not? I thought you said they did not. My apologies.
It's like very difficult.
My apologies. Mea culpa. I was wrong. Oh my God. Everybody clip it and get rid of my credibility. My channel's over. I apologize. I misread.
Probably the Gazan health ministry doesn't know either. It's like very difficult work to, while this is all going on, identify bodies and figure out how many of them are dead and how many of them were joined up with Hamas or weren't. You know, Hamas is also not like, it's not a government. It's not like as if there's like, it's not like, okay, if you were like, say, tracking like in America, there was a big, like explosion, a bunch of people died, and you could look at like DNA records and who was enlisted in the military, and you could just like match them up against each other. It's not scientific like that, or at least it's much more primitive than that. So I really wouldn't venture to guess. And I also don't know, like how accurate the numbers when they say 35,000 people have died. It seems within the realm of possibility.
There's a lot of people missing, right? And that's part of the problem.
Well, they said the most recent figures that they put out, again, this is the Gaza Health Ministry, which is overseen by Hamas, so take that with a grain of salt or whatever, but they said there's like, I think 10,000 who they weren't able to identify.
Can you imagine the horror of just walking down those streets? So if there are 10,000, I mean, how many of them can you smell?
Yeah.
How many of them can you smell? And notice how Joe here is bringing that up as, oh no, the horror. Whereas Tim Walz is like, oh yeah, the burning of civil unrest in America. Oh, it's 2020 summer of love. I fucking love. Oh, yeah. Different types of referring to the smell of bad things.
I mean, you just look around, you just see wreckage, and you smell rotting bodies.
Oh, dude, and just the worst things in the world.
Insane. It must be insane to have lived there before October 6th when it was already prison, to see it now. And it's continuing.
It's been that's the whole thing. It's continuing. And this did not start on October 7th. This did not start in 2006. This did not start in 1967. This did not start in 1940. Well, maybe it started more 1948. But even if it did, well, it definitely didn't. What am I saying? It did not start in 1948. It started so long ago that if any of these groups of people, not the individuals, the groups, the ideologies that run these groups, if they actually wanted anything resembling peace, if they wanted anything resembling a middle ground, if they wanted anything resembling diplomacy, then guess what? We would have had it already. We would have had it already. Just because they are, living in the desert or whatever, doesn't mean that they don't understand how to communicate with each other and be like, hey, let's compromise here. They don't want to. They just want to extract money from whoever they can because their dogma is those people must die. That is it. That is what you are working a third of your year. 4 months out of the entire year. Every year you work. And that money just goes to the government, and that's what they do with it. And then when a hurricane comes and destroys everything that you have, there's no more money left. Let's look at a couple of these things that before we go. Helene aftermath. Nearly 100 dead, 600 missing. This is from earlier today. Catastrophic destruction from Florida, north through Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia. 600 people still missing. Supplies continue to be airlifted. Everything is the highways are closed. So if you live in an area where the highway is closed or literally gone, you're fucked. You're fucked. Punchcast said primitism is what holds the Islamists back from every other race. It's the victim forever mentality. Yep, but guess what? In their victimization, unlike the woke victimization, where they're like, I can't do anything. Oh my God, I'm offended. Oh no, I can't do that. Unlike that, and their primitive nature, they're like, oh no, this is happening to us. Therefore, we must kill everybody. And they will. They will. And that is why I say that your I don't even know what to call it, but whatever the fuck Christianity is no match for what Islam has. It is no match. But yeah, look at this shit. I mean, come on, dude. Like,
For all the lovely people who are telling me about how, well, Florida gets storms and they're bad. I know. I've lived in Florida a lot of years. I moved to North Carolina, so I wouldn't have to deal with it. Here's what I'm dealing with right now.
Before we go into that, I said shit. Me too, Punchcast. Large portion of the Muslim world that marry first cousins or closer, uncle niece is not uncommon. It lowers IQ and explains the Middle East.
Bingo.
But that's mean.
This is a river. I'm about 40 feet above the road that I was paralleling to trying to get to, which means the road that I was trying to get to is about 40 feet underwater. I was on the high road. The low road is beneath this new river.
So you can see this is a literal mountain. And so the water's up 40 feet up the mountain.
That runs through Asheville. That's a house there. And the other option out of here is this road. Oh yeah, it's flooded too. So this is the 8th road that we've tried to get into Asheville. Basically, if you are somewhere that still has internet, unlike us, what you can do is look at the French Broad River and how it flows through Asheville and just operate on the...
What do you say, the French Broad? French Broad. I'll tell you about a French Broad. Okay, so let's see if we can get perfect, right? Is this what I want? Yeah, okay. So open image. So this is what we're of course. So I can't even fucking see from this one. This is, he's talking about this river going down here. So like most of these most of the roads most of these are rivers that are overflowed. So like if you live in here and this overflows here and this overflows here and this overflows here and this, you're just stuck. You're stuck. You're fucked.
The assumption that any area around the French Broad, probably 2 blocks on either side, has been washed away. Another.
I mean, it doesn't bode well for infrastructure, but like these places aren't used to getting this type of weather. This is just not common.
Road into Asheville that has become part of the French Broad River. So I'm standing on road, looking at road, and then there's all this flotsam and jetsam to the road. What's the flotsam and jetsam, you might ask? Oh, most of our fields around here have been washed into the rivers. So, here's a perfectly good tomato from somebody's field. There's a lot of not perfectly good tomatoes here.
And one more that really, really hit me.
Okay.
It really hit me. Hold on. Where are we? This one fuck with me.
Okay. Here we go. We have removed as much as we can.
I'm so glad that your comment went that direction. I was really, really, really hoping you weren't going the other way. Said Asheville's full of a bunch of crazy libs, so I'm sure they're not stocked up on reserve food and ammo. I mean, Asheville specifically, maybe, but like this went straight through like, yeah, that's what I want. This went straight through Appalachia, where like it's all red state type shit. I mean, like this, again, but like all of this is just fucked. All and most of it is up here. And again, all of this is all red territory, except for the actual cities. Atlanta is a city, you know, but I mean, I don't know what's good with Tallahassee specifically, but you know, these are Trump voting people.
Probably say bye-bye to the big ginormous TV. Probably, let's see, maybe say goodbye to our brand new dining furniture, probably. The TV console. We'll see if it makes it to about 3.5, 4 feet off the ground. We took our new cookware with us. You know, you kind of realize what your priorities are when you have to go through your house and you have 24 hours to save, which you can, and be willing to lose whatever's left. But we took our mattress. We love our mattress. Don't want to live the next 6 months. Lots of clothes left behind. We needed to get rid of some anyway.
24 hours.
We've had a busy 24 hours, but the next 24 hours is going to be even busier. Things are up off the floor.
That's a nice shower.
Getting ready
Gone.
to turn off the breakers to
Destroyed.
The house, so no electricity, in case, you know, we don't want fires to break out.
It's not real hardwood, but
We'll see if the electrical panel and the hot water heater make it, survive it.
and just hope.
Probably say bye-bye to that.
All you do is hope. You hope.
Another room here, everything up on the bed.
I hope.
Brand new furniture, notice.
That's all you can do.
Not even a year old. Which is what it is. 6 months old.
6 month old furniture.
But boy, aren't these floors pretty? Glad we like them because they're staying forever.
Yeah, like god damn, I'd be mad about them floors getting fucked. Come on.
Bye. Who knows what's going to go on in here in the next 24 hours? Oh my goodness.
I mean,
We got the boat tied up. Let's see what happens to that. Hopefully it doesn't take the tree down on top of the house. That would not be good. You can see the tide is already coming in, so we need to get out of here quickly.
Tide's going out right now.
tide's going
The
out.
tide
That's the
is
tide
high.
going out in their backyard.
That's it. That's the wrap. Oh, Oliver's room. We were able to get Oliver's bed, which he's going to be so happy about because he
All right,
loves
we
his
get it.
bed
We get it. We get it.
and his computer chair.
Wow.
So here
Oh,
we
yeah,
go.
that computer chair. You don't want to Big Bessie. You don't want to mess her out. Punchcat said, yeah. This also it's also the same with China right now. I don't understand why there isn't hurricane resources piled up to support the moment something like this happens. Because all of our money went to war. I mean, it's literally that simple. Is it not? Is it not? Back when I grew up on Fiji. In Fiji, on Fiji, we learned to be prepared for every cyclone season. And again, that's the problem here. That like Florida and South Carolina are a little bit more prepared for hurricane season. But as you further north and the further west you go, you know, if we can get a better map here, maybe. Size large. I want it large, baby. That's large. That's the largest one. That's not. No way. No. What? That's not. Why would you give me an option? Why are you giving me these tiny pictures? I don't understand. It says large, any size, large, and it's giving me the tiniest pictures. Anyway, so yeah, as you go further from the Gulf, as you go further from the coast, they're less and less prepared for this type of weather. Like all up here, like they know what's good. These people know what's good. These people have never seen shit like this. Is this even on screen? Wow. Yeah. So yeah, the further you get from the Gulf and the further you get from the coast, which is exactly the direction that Helene is taking. And so it started here, but if it was going this way and then went back out to sea, that would be more what we would expect, or to go up this way and then be dissipated by the time it hit and be much wider. But because like you don't get hurricanes like that, like We don't get hurricanes like that here. Even in Hurricane Sandy, which was, 2005? Not 2005. 2010, 2012. I don't know, somewhere around there. Like Jersey got hit bad, but even it was on a much smaller scale. And so I remember me and Akon went to we went to Atlantic City the moment that it was open, because it was closed. And like this is what Hurricane Sandy did to us, and this is like on the coast. We were not prepared for this kind of stuff because we're so far up north. I'm like, this is all a drug. There's not supposed to be sand here, and the beach is supposed to go way out. But if we look at a map, then so like Atlantic City is somewhere down in this region, and I'm not going to be too specific, but I live in Central Jersey. So with Sandy, this all got fucked. But in here was, we got, we lost power and whatever, but it was fine. We didn't have sand piled up to the fucking sink. So this is just different. We know we're moving into a different phase of the climate, and all of them are saying, "Oh no, it's climate change," but we know that that things are shifting. And that's why you pay for home insurance only to be dropped. And that's an act of God. Also, I don't think it's a resource issue. A few days after a hurricane will be a shit show with the best planning. This is just a George Bush doesn't care about black people up from the right. What? I'm just gonna leave that one alone. I'm not in the mood. Went on Pluncast saying my insurance didn't even support my car accident, so I stopped paying. Well, I hope you don't get pulled over because you're gonna get arrested. Oh, you don't live in you don't even live here, so that's an American thing. All right, guys, it is time to party. A big shout out to our donations. Very, 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 very much appreciated to each and every one of you. But of course, we got to give a big thank you to the sponsor of the stream, Gary Grant. Not only the $20, but a gifted membership. Rowdy Rupp, if you are here, if you're not already in that Discord server, make sure you are headed over there, because we are headed over there right meow for an after party. I really want to thank you guys so much for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed the show, and hope you will again come join the Discord, whether you're going to be a member or not. You can join as you can join for free, and if you just have conversation, you'll level up to the spot where you get permissions for all the rest of the stuff. So there is nothing you can lose. Head on over there. That is where I am heading. Hopefully, I will see you over there. Until next time, guys, thank you so very much. Once again, this is Morty, and I have been your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Until next time, guys, we are out of here. Peace.